If an existing smartphone launches on a new platform, is it really a new product? Are paper-thin bezels enough to get you excited about a mid-range handheld? And is Motorola naming its devices after stellar bodies or mischievous Ferengi bartenders? We'll talk about all that with the help of a special guest from the land of the Buffalo on episode 110 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast where we discuss news and opinion from the world of mobile technology, from smartphones to tablets to wearables, all the stuff you wished existed when you were a kid. From Boston, Massachusetts, where Engadget is throwing a party tonight and I'm going to it, I'm your host, Michael Fisher. I'm joined today by a man with a storied technology history and the flair to prove it. From New Jersey, Chief News Editor Stephen Shank. Welcome aboard.
Hey, I'm glad your story ended with you going to that Engadget event. I was all ready for it to be. And I asked to go and was...
And I'm staying home. No. And I'm going to be joined by Jules, our podcast producer, but also on the air with us is a man who has no fear of ice water on his head. From North Carolina, where it's hot enough to do that kind of thing, Senior Editor Taylor Martin. Dude, hello.
What's up? Yeah, that was unexpected and fun. It was actually very refreshing. So
I want to ask you about that.
Refreshing. Yeah.
I want to ask you about that. Before we do, I want to remind everyone of our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, our podcast sponsor, Swappa, is a marketplace for gently used phones, tablets, and wearables, and the folks there have recently launched their Boneyard section. Within, you can find crazy good prices on used accessories, parts, and even broken phones. And why would you want a broken phone? Well, it might be very worth your while. For example, perhaps you find an HTC One X with a cracked screen for $70. If you replace the screen on your own with a screen repair kit, or you brave the mall kiosk, the replacement cost might be $80. Then you have a 1X with a brand new screen for only $150, which you can then use or resell for a higher amount and make a profit. Check out the Boneyard on Swappa, swappa.com/boneyard, or swappa.com/pocketnow if you want to tell them we sent you. Good times, great oldies. What's been happening? Taylor's trying to finish a post, but I want to bother him about dumping ice water on his head. Hey, that works for raising awareness, doesn't it, Taylor Martin?
Sure does.
No. He's around. I'm very interested in hearing about this. So we talked a little bit about it on Untethered last night, and I don't want to go too far into it. I just basically am bringing this up to say that Taylor has done it. He tagged me, even though I had already donated. So another reason I'm bringing that up is I've donated. So don't tag me anyone anymore. I've done it. I didn't have time to do a video, but I did the thing. But I guess my real question is, why hasn't anybody tagged Stephen Shank in any of this fun?
Because they know I'm not going to do it. I don't respond to social media stuff. It's just barking up the wrong tree.
Thank you for saying it, Stephen. Thank you for making the point I expected you to make, because, damn it, I was the same way until the 15th person tagged me in something, and I felt enormous pressure to do something. And, Stephen, is this why you don't hang out on Twitter?
I hang out on Twitter.
You do not hang out on Twitter. You hang out on Twitter once every 25 days to check your one mention from me.
Well, what do you mean to say was he creeps on Twitter?
There's many sides to this.
Indeed. Well, I'm getting the distinct notion...
I'm actually horse ebooks, it turns
out. You know, I meant to read that story about horse ebooks, and I still have meant to say I still don't know the full story about who put that together and why. But God, what a gem that was for a while when everyone thought it was real. That was fun. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get the podcast rundown up on my LG G Flex, which is serving as my trusty companion today. Another companion, the HTC One M8 for Windows with this special edition Xbox dot view case, which you cannot have. We're going to get to that later, and that is the first announcement, actually. If you have questions, today's podcast contains a segment of Gadgets in Hand, and that's predominantly why Todd Haselton from TechnoBuffalo is joining us in a bit, to field questions of yours from the world of the HTC One M8 for Windows, which we've just posted a comparison on, and which we have a lot of things to say about. So please get those in. Use the Q&A app if you're watching this live, and just stay tuned if you're listening to the recorded version. Also, we don't have them in hand, but we are going to be answering questions about the Sharp AQUOS Crystal for Sprint, Boost, and Virgin. Steven, did I get all that right?
Ooh, you nailed that.
Nice. Which I really like a lot. And
I'm surprised about that guy. I think we're going to get to it later at some point, or
we are. Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get into it in Gadgets in Hand because Todd was there at the same event I was, so we'll all kind of throw some stuff around.
What a price on that thing!
Yeah, I know. That's the whole thing. Like, I've never seen a little slice of the future priced so reasonably. Yeah. But before we get to that, we have some other announcements to get through, and I think Steven, you are probably chomping at the bit to tell us a little bit about the thing that I wanted to end with, but let's start with it. You want to tell everybody about the black phone action?
Yeah, we had a little lull in our smartphone or Pocketnow summer of giveaways last week, but we're back in full force this time. We've partnered up with GSM Nation and Fight for the Future to give away the security-focused black phone. We've been talking about it a lot, doing hands-on, had just general sort of post reminding you about security for phones in general, all to hype you up about the black phone. So now we're giving one away. Contest is still going strong, so we have until next Wednesday to get your entries in. So if you haven't entered yet, plenty of time. Really easy. You just got to follow all three of the companies involved on Twitter. If you want a better chance to win, there's some extra you can do after that, but pretty straightforward. We're not asking you to sign up for Facebook or anything. And I think it's open internationally.
It is. It is a global giveaway, yep. And Fight for the Future and GSM Nation also had some great ideas to kind of regularly blast out tips on how to keep yourself secure, whether you have a black phone or not. So that's part of this giveaway as well. So if you even see the podcast or the giveaway posts, you will get a little bit of education. And Joe Levi's been writing a couple pieces on our end, too, regarding that. So it's a big month for security, and we're really happy to be partnered with such members of the community in such good standing in terms of that kind of stuff. Fight for the Future is pretty awesome. We all know GSM.
I always think about X-Files whenever anyone mentions that.
What, Fight for the Future?
Yeah.
So don't sweat that. You should enter. I sort of wanted to lead things off a little bit with the Xiaomi Mi 4, but I think Taylor's still working on what he's got to work on over there. So I will say that
I'm almost done.
Good. Taylor Martin also posted a piece called "Guess Which Smartphone Took These Photos." Did you? The answer is not up yet, I don't think, but it is the 6th edition of this series that I really enjoy doing, where we post what it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, like about 18 photos from a mystery smartphone, and you need to go determine exactly
this contest because I'm so bad at it. Taylor asked me yesterday to take a look at these. Like, hey, Steven, can you figure out what this is? I have no idea. It's smartphone pictures look like smartphone pictures. It's like a broken camera and lights bleeding through, like in those Xperias a while back. I don't know.
That's why I love this freaking series, man. Like, because everyone's bad at it. The success rate in the comments is like 2%. I mean, no one.
So many. Eventually, someone's gonna get it, but it's just like throwing darts blind.
That was. Last time I accidentally posted a photo, and there was a reflection of the Nexus camera port, this giant black hole in the back of a white phone, and it was this shiny little blue object in my front yard. I don't even know what it is. Something of my and it took about 10-15 minutes, and someone's like, "Oh, it's an Nexus 5. It's in a reflection."
That is unfortunate, friend. I'm really glad that didn't happen this time. I really hope that you didn't square that off this time. I'm looking at the comments, and they're like, people are guessing Xperia Z2, HTC M8, G3, Galaxy S5. It's all over the board. It's always all over the board. A lot of guesses for HTC One M8. When are you posting the answer, Taylor?
6 p.m. Eastern.
All right, just a few hours after this broadcast concludes. So yeah, get your guesses in over there. I really like that series because it just consistently demonstrates how close to parity all the various smartphone shooters are in average conditions. And I would like to take it a step further and just kind of actively steer people in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we should do one where we say, "Oh, what phone is this?" and it's 16 pictures all from different phones.
Oh God, that would be rude and crude.
No.
Taylor, if you're done, I would love to hear. I read Taylor's. Yeah, you are definitely having some crazy connectivity issues, but par for the course in rural Hall.
Geared up for the Doctor Who premiere this weekend.
So you know what? I had some internet connectivity problems back in the day, as longtime listeners will remember. Right around episode 70, 80, like there was a 10 episode span there where I was so pissed. And that was back in the Skype days when it wasn't Skype's fault because Skype was doing very well for us, and I was like ripping stuff apart, like, you know, this wasn't literally happening, but you can envision me with my head under the hood of a big mainframe computer, like ripping out cables and having grease stains on my face. I was doing a lot of work to try and figure out what this problem was.
That's all the grease in the modern servers.
Oh yeah, a lot of gears in modern computers, a lot of chains and such. And I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out what the damn problem was until I realized that back then we used to record in the early morning, for me, the early morning, about 9 a.m., and I didn't realize that on my home internet, LAN, my roommate he would wake up and immediately start streaming HQ YouTube videos. And that was what was screwing me up the whole time. And it wasn't anything complicated. It was just, I failed to communicate with the people who share my living space about bandwidth. So Taylor, is anybody else home with you? Is anybody streaming episodes of Dora the Explorer? Do you have the dog channel on for Axel on Netflix? What's going on?
He's watching it over here on this TV that's off. No, my girlfriend's upstairs babysitting, but I don't think they're watching television. So I'll go check that when I finish this, just to make sure.
You watch a lot of TV.
Yeah. Well, while we still have you, while we can actually hear you, can you tell us a little bit about the Mi 4? Are you equipped to do that? This Xiaomi iPhone that I LOL'd real hard about when I read your review? Yeah,
what'd you LOL about?
I LOL'd about because like not only did Taylor specifically, it's like you did a 360. You were like, yeah, by the way, this phone's really cool, but it's also a whole lot like the iPhone, and that's sort of hilarious. But if you think that, you're wasting my time and yours, so shut up. Here's the review. That's basically what you say in the hardware section.
That's kind of how you have to write in this industry, because if you don't cover every single possible thing, someone somewhere is going to call you out for being an idiot.
That's going to happen anyway in the comments, so why do you even bother? Like, just say it looks like a Chinese iPhone ripoff, because that's what it looks like to me.
Really nice Chinese iPhone ripoff.
I think it does in pictures, but once you get it in your hand, it kind of feels like an iPhone, just because it has that flat metal band around the outside.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. To use it in looking at it in person, it doesn't necessarily look like it. It just kind of feels like it.
Your title image that we have on screen right now from the review is really, really cool. But I look at it, and the first thing I see beyond the iPhone-like hardware build is those iOS folders, and they're just straight up ripped off dialer-like icons.
Oh, Jesus! I didn't even see that before.
Oh,
yeah, a lot of it is. But a lot of it also isn't Xiaomi, because a lot of it is third-party themes. So
are you running a third-party theme for that image that you had?
I changed themes so much that I don't remember which was the stock. Like, I don't remember which one I was running in which pictures. It's hard to tell. A lot of them look a lot alike.
I think the one all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you switch the theme, the phone would just completely freeze. Well, it wouldn't freeze. You could do things, but the touchscreen input would go out.
Who needs touchscreen input?
So you could launch Google Now. Yeah, you could launch Google Now by long pressing the menu button, but you couldn't do anything. Like, once you got in Google Now, you couldn't search.
So the hardware seems pretty great. It's a Snapdragon 801. It's got a good amount of specs, and if you can get over the fact that it looks a lot like the iPhone, it's a pretty nice piece of hardware, especially with the changeable backs coming. It sounds like your real problem has been the MIUI and the issues there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely problems with MIUI. Like, animations, when you click to open a folder, you could see individual frames, like pop, 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 and then it's open.
Ooh.
It's just the lag and frame rate drops, and just opening folders was horrible, but you open up a game like Modern Combat 5, I had a lot of fun playing that game, because I finally broke out my Mogo Pro controller again and paired this thing up, and I was having a lot of fun playing games on it, but just little things like that were horrible on it. So, and you couldn't guess. It was really hard to measure like battery life and everything using the software on the phone, because I literally had the screen on for like 3 hours straight. Check the screen on time, 55 seconds. And I don't know if that's a bug in the software or if it's just because I had to reboot the phone so many times, I lost track, and I don't know.
Would you recommend it to someone looking for a high-end Android phone, Taylor? Let's cut to the brass tacks.
I honestly would probably wait until MIUI 6 comes out of beta, just to see what it's like. I wouldn't buy it right now because one, you're getting the Chinese version of the phone. They don't have the international version yet. Once you get an international version, it'll ship with Google Play because out of the box, this thing does not come with it because it's a Chinese version.
Right.
So I would wait, honestly.
All right.
Yep.
Well, there we have it. Thank you. Thank you for spending the time on the review. That one comes to us from 28 Mobile. I imagine it's going to head on back to them at some point. And then, Taylor, you're moving on to some new devices. Is that what would you like to share with the group? What the next Taylor Martin review we can all look forward to is going to be?
I don't know what it is. What is it?
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't know it. Yeah, it's actually slightly not determined right now, but we are overdue for a Galaxy S5 after the buzz, and I believe Taylor Martin's going to be taking that up for us. And but we are also going to try and squeeze in, if we can, a full review of the Kyocera Brigadier, the phone we beat the hell out of this week, and the phone that demonstrated that yes, indeed, you can scratch Sapphire. So we'd like to get a full review out on that. Go ahead.
Is that because it's not completely 100% sapphire, because it's more of like an alloy of glass together? Is that what it is?
What?
It's not an alloy of it's just synthetic sapphire crystal material. It's not,
I was reading somewhere that it's like these new sapphire screens are not 100% sapphire. They're a combination of things.
That's 100% bullshit then.
Well, I mean, I wasn't sure. I don't know. I'd have to research it myself.
No, if they're not doing full-on sapphire, there's no point. Also, that seems like it'd be a really awful manufacturing problem to make sapphire and then try to mix it with other crystals. This is a bad idea all the way home.
That's the whole purpose of using sapphire.
I want to point out that there's no, we have no evidence of that. When I visited GT Crystal Systems, the sapphire material was pretty much all that was in the bulls there. Yeah, so I don't know what we're talking about suddenly. There has been sapphire is like the buzzword of the century right now. A guy from the Daily Mail called me up the other day and asked me a few questions on it, and I'm quoted in an article on that.
Aren't you fancy?
I had to do
the Daily Mail.
You got your Business Insider plug last week. I had to make myself sound like I'm doing some work, but it's really fascinating stuff. We've actually had a dialogue going with some folks at Kyocera on the results of our test with regard to some of the assertions we're making with regard to Sapphire's brittleness compared to Gorilla Glass and so on. So maybe we will be able to cover a little bit more on this. I'm always game to learn more about this stuff, and I'm always ready to go see an industrial setting where this stuff is grown, because it's like grown like crystals. It's awesome.
Send one to Joe. He will destroy that thing. I don't care what it's made of.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, Stephen, I think it's about time that I didn't overrun Jules' cue once again. I'm going to give him the time necessary to put in the news chime. Jules, will you sound the news alert for us? And that wonderful sound means it's time for Stephen Schenk to take the floor and tell us what the hell has been happening in mobile tech this week.
Something about rattlesnakes, I presume, but...
Yeah. Many, many babies have escaped their cribs and are rattling down Main Street. Stephen Schenk with the story.
All right. Big news today. We got a bit of an exclusive leak thanks to an insider hooking us up with some information about the next big smartwatch from Samsung. Word is that this Gear 3 is coming up, and very, very soon. Could be launching as soon as next month, which makes it sound like we could see this guy at Samsung's IFA Unpacked event in just under 2 weeks from now. The Gear 3 sounding like it's going to be... It's kind of a departure from existing models, and also kind of sticking with Samsung's gun. So it's going to be another Tizen smartwatch, just like the Gear 2, and well, now the Galaxy Gear got upgraded to Tizen as well, but not Android Wear. We'll supposedly see a really pronounced curved screen on this guy. So it's going to curve, along your wrist. It's going to be a little longer in that direction along the curve than the Gear 2 was. Not quite so extreme as the Gear Fit we hear, at least size of the screen wise. The actual curve might be more pronounced than it was on the Gear Fit. The Gear Fit was a curved AMOLED, but it's a very minor sort of bend to it. And let's see what else. Oh, we might not get a camera this time around. It was interesting to see how Samsung improved with the camera for the Gear 2, but gesundheit.
Nice.
But I guess we're not interested in it.
Taylor, quick fingers on the mute button, Martin.
I don't have a mute button anymore. Oh,
but
no.
what about the update that we got this morning, Stephen? This is like the sauciest bit of knowledge for me, which I wish we'd known in time to put into the headline, because hey.
Right, so one thing that's sort of been hanging around the Samsung wearables rumor bin for the past couple months now has been this idea of a fully autonomous smartwatch, one with its own cellular radio. We've heard about the Gear Solo. We even saw the name pop up in some import logs, so it was clear Samsung was working on something like this. But now we're hearing that this, what we've been calling the Gear 3, could also get its own cellular radio. So you could keep on using it with your smartphone like normal, but it would also be able to connect to the internet on its own. Now, we don't know if that means that we're going to get the Gear Solo and the Gear 3, if the Gear 3 is what we've been calling the Gear Solo. So there's some uncertainty there, but one way or another, it sounds like we're getting a fully all on its own smartwatch from Samsung within probably the next couple of weeks. So this is big news, because these have been hard to catch on. We talked about that the Timex Iron Man one a week or two ago, which it wasn't quite as full feature-wise as a smartphone we would like to see, and the battery life sounded awful. And again, we're not sure that Samsung has necessarily fixed the battery problem here. Our source sort of hinted that the battery would still be an issue, but
yeah,
at least the feature's there if you want it, which I think would be nice. Because I can imagine a lot of users would keep these connected to their phones most of the time. People who own smartwatches are going to have smartphones on them a lot. But like Timex was thinking, it's if you're going to be out on a run or something, or doing something athletic where you don't necessarily want to be dragging your phone with you, it's a great option to have for a few hours if you really don't want to lose that connectivity to the world.
I think it's very interesting that the Galaxy Gear, Samsung's first wearable, was announced exactly a year ago almost at IFA.
So quickly.
And that's the thing. Like if indeed this is the Gear 3, and if it is announced alongside the Note 4 at IFA this year, Samsung will have announced its third generation product of a wearable in a year, which I guess isn't that surprising considering how quickly the original Galaxy Gear was thrown together, but it's still impressive. I mean, not only have they kicked out 3 generations of hardware, 1 generation of which had 3 different variants, but they've also done a platform switch in that time from Android to Tizen on their watches. And I mean, that's amazing. Say what you will about Samsung.
The Android Wear model, which I always mess up the name
of. Oh, right, exactly. The Gear Live, which I'm wearing, which I am always wearing. I mean, like, I do not like a lot of Samsung's choices or some of Samsung's choices in the wearable arena, but you have to admit that's impressive speed. I just don't know if the quality of the product is going to bear out the effort. I guess we'll see, but I'm excited about the curved screen. That's all you had to say. When I saw the story go up, and you said it's a 1.6-inch curved screen, maybe?
No, that's the current one. If it's we're hearing the screen's going to be about the same width on this, but taller, so it's going to be bigger than 1.6, maybe 1.8, 2 inches. But
so it's like if you took a Samsung Gear Fit and stuck like a cocktail straw in it and blew with all your might, and it just kind of expanded that a little bit. But sign me right the hell up. A curved screen. I mean, obviously, like, I'm using the G Flex as my podcast, sidekick today. I think curved screens are really hot. What about Taylor Martin? What does he think about this wearable? I sense negativity or skepticism from our friend in Rule Hall without the lower third.
I still don't have a lower third, do I? I'm not really that interested in it. I'm sorry. Samsung has not really pulled me in with its wearables yet. Hasn't really piqued my interests at all. I haven't seen this actual link or the leak, so I don't know. I'm not prepared right now. I'm trying to finish.
We don't have any pics or anything. It's just what we
it's just okay.
Yeah, it's just basically what you've heard. All right. Well, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think that we are going to land in the midst of the event. Our aircraft is going to land, and we're still going to be kind of on our way over to the thing. So we're going to have to settle for some trade floor footage of this, which is going to be rough and quick. And this is not the last time I'll mention that. I think next week we'll have an IFA preview podcast or something. But at any rate, we are going to get hands-on with this, and it's going to be great. Just don't expect fancy pre-brief nonsense. Let's talk about Motorola, Stephen. I am very interested in what's happening with this ugly-ass phone.
You don't like it?
I want to like it, and I'm sure in person it'll be better looking than the renders, but boy, it sure looks a little busy for a device that's calling itself a Moto X.
What we're talking about, folks, is the Moto X Plus One, and the latest in a long series of leaks going back weeks and weeks just landed yesterday, where good old EvLeaks, just retired, decided to give us all a little going-away present and delivered some renders of the Moto X Plus One for Verizon. It's kind of what we've been seeing before, with that same weird big lens and looks like tiny little LEDs embedded on the ring around the lens itself.
But and please don't forget the dimple beneath the camera lens. That's exactly the same size as the camera lens.
I don't think it's a dimple. I think it's flat. We saw it in leaked pic a while back.
But it's not flat. It's still a depression in the device, right? Yeah, it's still a depression in the device, and it looks big enough. I don't know. Maybe it's a button. Maybe it's not a fingerprint scanner because it's got a logo on it. But it just shouldn't be that big. Why is it as big as the camera lens? I don't understand. But all right, let's go around to the front.
I think it's only a problem because you're familiar with the Moto X. If this is what we got in the first place, I don't think you'd be having the same objections.
I stand in a contrary position to you on that, sir. I would have looked. No, okay, you're right. You're right. The Moto X has established something of a precedent that I found very pleasing. It was, but then again, it wasn't very distinctive either, right? I found the Moto X very comfortable to use. I still do. It's one of my 2 daily drivers, but it is also not terribly, not a big standout. It is not eye-catching in any regard from the front. So they seem to have changed that around on the front side here. We got, what are these, speaker grills top and bottom now?
I don't know. They look like them. It's hard to tell if they're functionally stereo speakers or not. I would love them to be, but
they look like speaker. Yeah, they look like the same speaker grills as on the Moto E, except thankfully they're uniform.
Yeah, the Moto E was not, right?
Right. Well, the Moto E had one of them was a speaker, one of them was a microphone. Yeah. And then we have, for some reason, 2 dots alongside the lower speaker grill, which I don't know what their purpose is. Maybe they're dual mics for some reason.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Then a whole lot of material up top, too. A front-facing camera, proximity sensor. This is all speculation, by the way. And 2 more mystery dots, which I don't know anything about.
What if it's like a Fire phone or something?
Oh, actually, I wouldn't mind that because I liked the dynamic perspective of the Fire phone.
Everyone thinks that those cameras are so ugly. These don't look that bad. They look very small, but I don't know.
I don't know. I bet they're mics of some kind. I bet they're audio pickups. They don't look so big enough to be optical components.
No, they don't. But
yeah. So what else? What else is there that we've learned about this, Stephen? I'm sorry to interrupt you with my talk of my BS aesthetic objections.
That was all from speakers. This release. There's some new stuff I've seen in the feeds with retailers trying to confirm some of the customization options. It's sounding like what we've been hearing about there being a lot more material choices than we got with Moto X might be happening.
Good.
So at least that would help differentiate this from any Nexus Motorola phone.
Yeah. I want to see I don't know if Jules has this queued up on the board. He probably doesn't, but it would be nice if he had some applause because we've just been joined by Todd Haselton.
Hey, everybody.
TechnoBuffalo.
What's up?
Hey, Todd.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show, man. I'm glad you're here. This has been great. We've been trying to make this happen for a long time, so I'm glad you're finally here.
Thanks for having me.
Oh. That's normally our announcement sound effect, but that'll work. That'll work. Todd, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome from WebOS. I have we were just talking about the X Plus One. Have you seen these new renders? What do you think about the aesthetics of this thing?
I think it looks good. It's probably one of the phones I'm most excited for coming up. I really like.
It does look good.
Yeah, I think.
I never said I wasn't excited for it. No. I'm still very excited for it. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I don't think if these renders are accurate, I don't think they've made the thing look any better than it did before. I think it looks
just kind of looks bigger, right? And am I the only one that camera looks huge? What's going on with that? That just me? It's
the camera looks huge.
Circle.
it seems like those two dots alongside the lens, it would be most likely to me that those are tiny little sub-flashes that combine into one big flash. So I feel like that's why they had to make that bezel around the camera a little bit larger. I don't know.
Yeah,
what confuses me, which we were saying before you came on the air, is why the hell they had to make the damn dimple the same size as the camera, because it looks like the thing is wearing a pair of binoculars vertically. And I don't understand why that is.
It does. It does. I don't know. I think for me, at least with the Moto X, right, like it's all about the software experience. So that's what I think I'm most looking forward to, seeing what Motorola does on that front, and any improvements on the camera and stuff like that's just a bonus for me.
That's gravy.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I mean, it's going to be a very fun time to see what they've done. I'm a little concerned while we're talking about the software experience. Stephen, have the leaks told us to expect a Snapdragon 805 on this one, or do we not know?
Doesn't spring to mind immediately, but I feel like we've seen benchmarks that have made at least some stabs at the processor choice.
Me too, yeah, and I think what I've seen is been like an 800 series processor, and that's fine because there's a lot of capability baked into that processor that apes at least what Moto has been able to do with their custom X8 mobile computing system, but I just hope that we don't sacrifice any of those features, because these are things I use on the Moto X quite often, like touchless control and Motorola Assist while I'm driving to dictate my text and stuff. I don't want any of that to go away because they wanted to go with a more standard processor, So.
Well, hopefully they'll still be able to deliver that, because we know that the 800 has these sort of listening while it's asleep features built in, and just few manufacturers take advantage of them. So in theory, Motorola could deliver the same sort of feature set with a more mainstream processor, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that'd be a huge miss if they actually took that out. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons we all praise the Moto X, right, with those software features. So,
agreed. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the other Motorola device on the docket here, the Quark, which I'm not excited about, but it's part of this massive portfolio of devices. Maybe we can hit two stones with one bird here, and talk about what the hell is on the docket for Motorola in the new year, and why anyone should care about this Quark XT 1254, the sexiest of all brand names.
Yeah, someone fill me in on this Quark.
Yeah, Stephen, I think Jaime covered this one. Do you want me to give it the rundown?
So I think we should talk about this in the same breath as this leak of Motorola strategy for the rest of the year. So there's this talk that in addition to the Moto X Plus 1 and the new Moto G, you don't know if it's going to be just the new G or the G2, these phones we're almost certainly going to see announced on September 4. But then past that, we're having a few more Motorola phones we've been looking forward to. This Motorola Nexus, and then the idea of a Moto S, which might be an Android Silver device, and which we heard Android Silver may or may not be happening. This new leak seems to suggest, yeah, we're going forward with this.
So that's what that is. I didn't know what the Moto S was when Jaime was referencing it in this piece. I was like, what is the Moto S? I don't understand.
Yeah, right.
I'm not finding this in the rundown. And here we go. Da-da-da.
The Droid Turbo is the other one,
right? Right. Sort of on the back burner, there have been rumors on and off all summer long about new Droid devices for Verizon. And this leak is saying we could get a new Droid. It just says Droid. You know if it's going to be an Ultra or what the naming is going to be. But the Droid, a Droid Max, and a Droid Turbo. And one of these, which might be the Quark, could be this Turbo. And then they actually might not be a Verizon exclusive this time around. It's supposedly AT&T might be interested.
No
different
way.
names. I mean, it wouldn't be called the Droid. It'd be the Motorola, I don't know, they have a lot of letters left they could go with. So,
so from a strategic standpoint, this does not surprise me. We've seen Motorola do different device releases in the past, hand in hand, and now with their new owner having announced intentions to blow out 140 phones in the new year or something like that. I don't know. A couple weeks ago.
Lenovo's going to go aggressive, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, so that doesn't surprise me. But the more interesting thing to me, and I don't really care about the specs, is the fact that they're going to call this thing the Droid Turbo. Now, I would carry it just for the name. Like when I have to tell people what phone I've got, like depends on what it is. It's usually this kind of unsexy combination of name and number. It's like, oh, this is the Lumia 1020, or this.
I'm sorry, are you implying Droid Turbo is a sexy name?
No. I'm implying it is so ridiculous that you can't like it. Because like it's not right. It doesn't blow anybody's face off to say, oh, this is the One M8. It's like, okay, whatever. This is the Droid Turbo.
It's like I feel like it needs
LG Hullabaloo.
The Droid Turbo, like it needs like a very dramatic.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, oh that's cool. You got a Hemi in there, brother. What's the torque?
That's coming.
Durango.
But I feel like this happens all the time though with Verizon. Like it's like, or it happened last year when the Moto X came out. That was really cool. And even though the devices that launched under the Droid banner alongside it carried some of the same features as the Moto X, they got almost no buzz, right? I mean, I don't remember anything. Like, Todd, did you get a hands-on time with any of those? Did you?
Yeah. I was at the event, and I remember just being like, well, I think the event for Verizon happened before Moto X, right? Am I crazy? And then
did it?
They did
yeah,
Moto X?
I think it did.
Because they were like, oh, check out these features, and like everybody was like talking about all these cores. It was kind of confusing, and then Moto X sort of clarified a lot of that.
Yeah. Okay.
At least that's how I remember it, but I could be wrong.
I'm really not a fan of these Verizon exclusive Droid models. I mean, in the past, when they were, they had the QWERTY keyboards, they were interesting devices, but now it just seems like we just want to flesh out our lineup a little with 3 more devices. They aren't really that different. Yeah, the Max is cool because of the big battery, but they're not really standout. I don't know that anyone's saying, oh, I gotta sign up for Verizon because they got these new Motorola Droid models. The Moto X has always been so much more attractive.
Right.
I don't know what they're thinking.
I agree, and I feel like now more than ever maybe that Droid branding is starting to get a little confusing, especially when they're launching. I think there were 3 at a time, and people are like, I don't know, like what Android and Droid and all this stuff. I feel like Moto X was just a much better product.
Oh, yeah, it totally was.
Or just like
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I remember when
Moto X, the Droid Ultra, the Droid Mini, and the Droid Max in the same week. Or 2 weeks?
Yeah.
We're like, what the heck?
I remember when Taylor reviewed the, what was it, the Droid Ultra?
Oh, no, we decided not to review that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Because we had just had our faces blown off by the Moto X, or we were in the process of it anyway, and we really liked that. And as Stephen, you mentioned before, like the Droid brand used to represent some really great build quality, some Kevlar stuff that either you liked it or you hated it, but it at least felt pretty good. It was, you got the QWERTY keyboard, all that kind of stuff back when it was a legit contender. It looks like Stephen has an OG Droid with him. That's awesome. I still remember the first time I saw that because that launched with Android 2.0. Like there was a lot that set that apart.
I have a Droid X around here somewhere.
And the Droid X was great too. Yeah, and then this thing comes to Taylor's office and it's like glossy and you can scratch it.
Yeah, remember those fingerprints on that thing?
I had the thing for 3 days and it looked like I took sandpaper to the back of it. Awful.
And it's got this sort of semi-aggressive Motorola skin still, right? Did it have like the circles widget on it?
Yep. Yeah, it had that and that weird launcher thing. And
something I just remember, because we were saying a minute ago how this Droid branding might be getting played out and Verizon needs to rethink it. I was going to say, well, we have those new Star Wars movies coming up soon. Maybe this will rekindle interest. And I think there was a connection in this rumor about the 8 models that one of the droids from Verizon could be tied in to a Star Wars promo. I don't know if that means another R2-D2 model or anything so crazy, but
that would be so cool. I would buy the hell out of a special edition R2-D2.
When does Episode 7 due? Next year or 2016?
It's far off, isn't it? It's 2016.
I want to say it's far off. It seems too soon for a promotional tie-in.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's going to be awesome because J.J. Abrams, the whole time he was directing Star Trek, he wanted to be directing Star Wars, so I'm very excited to see what he does with this.
Yeah, 2015, 2017, and 2019.
2015? Okay, that's not bad.
I guess could work.
I loved when
it's like almost 2016.
Motorola R2-D2 Special Edition gets update March 24th, 2012. I remember that.
Looking phone.
It was cool looking, but the Droid 2 was like the biggest piece ever, wasn't it? Like it was a total garbage pile.
Droid 3 existed for like 2 weeks before the Droid 4 came out.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
When did they kill Moto Blur? Because that was a great day.
Oh God.
Yes, it was. It's still called Blur in the software. Like if you go into the code. It's
really?
Blur.
Oh,
it was last year at least.
That was.
Well, I hope that we get to see all this kind of stuff firsthand. I think, Todd, the reason that I wasn't recalling the Verizon event last year was because either we weren't able to go or we weren't invited to go. We went to the Moto X one, but I think the Verizon one just completely went over our heads. I don't remember it.
Yeah, there were just a bunch of circular tables. It was weird. It was like unlike
That's all there was.
I don't know. It's like unlike most press events, like where you're kind of in a row. It was just like tables and then a guy on the stage.
Was it terrible lighting? And then they had this device section,
really bad lighting.
Always terrible
lighting. And they went through the devices. They announced the devices like right after another, and so I was just like, I can't keep up. Like, what the heck's going on?
Before I forget to mention it, first of all, Todd, you and I have lucked out on our press events in New York City with lighting, but I want to ask you, just logistically speaking, do you have your software rolling?
Yeah, I do.
Sweet.
Oh.
Start
the podcast over.
At the actually, what's it called? The press events in New York City this week we lucked out because 2 of the 3 events that I attended they took place during the day, and they had like a patio outside, or at least big old windows, so we could get natural light into the place and actually see what we were filming. Todd actually, in fact, stood at a giant plate glass window for that Crystal. That was awesome. Like, your backdrop was Manhattan.
Do you know why I had to do that?
30 floors. Too loud?
Yeah, too loud. So I'm like, all right, I got to go to the bathroom. And, like, I filmed it in there, and people kept coming in, so I filmed it, like, 4 times.
That was the bathroom stall with the wall that was a window.
It's really funny. I was like, I just need 2 minutes, and people were coming in like, hey, Todd, and then just, like, jumping in the stall. I was like... It's so awkward.
All the complaints we see about Google Glass and privacy violations, we're the ones going in and filming stuff in the bathrooms.
That's funny. Oh, God. I thought I was like on top of things with the guerrilla tactics because I filmed all the vanity footage, but then I needed a place to record VO, and I couldn't find a quiet place, so I went and found an ATM vestibule, and I like recorded my voiceover in an ATM.
They honestly, they pulled me aside and they offered me the bathroom or the stairwell. So I was like, I'll take the bathroom, I guess. The lighting was better.
The lighting was better in the bathroom. That's the stall that I specifically did not decide to go in because I didn't want New York City looking at me while I peed.
Yeah, right.
It's
like right there.
We're going to talk about that in a second.
I think actually the last time I saw you was at a Motorola event, Todd.
Yeah.
Droid M. It was a long time ago.
That was. Aside from CES, I saw you at the Sony event at CES.
Yeah, so, was the Razer... I think the Droid M was the last Droid-branded product that I liked. It was the smaller one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I reviewed that for us. I really liked that thing. It didn't have the best profile. It kind of looked like a wedge you stick in your front door to keep it open, but it was not... I think
that's what I actually did with mine.
I liked that thing. I think that
was a great phone.
Little subset. Yeah, it was a little 4.3-inch screen, but it didn't feel like it because the phone was so small.
Yeah, and that was like when we were really saying edge to edge, probably for one of the first times on like a smartphone. I think that felt like it most.
Totally. Yes. Oh yeah. Jules has got the photo up there. Yeah, that was good. I remember when they were trying to blow out inventory on that toward the end of its life, and it was like Father's Day or something. It's like, get Dad the Droid Razer REM for like 49 cents. Like, I don't think I will, but thank you.
I actually like my dad, so pass.
Yeah. Let's talk about the old. That was a good. I feel like it's funny because like normally this is good. This is good for balance because normally we're very laudatory about Motorola, and like from the start of this segment till now we've just kind of been busting up. But it's all right. It's good for balance. Everyone knows we love the Moto X and so on. So let's talk about Windows 9. I don't know much about it. I had to do a little bit of research before I came on the air, but this is rumored. Microsoft is rumored to host an event on September 30th announcing Windows 9 and possibly Windows Phone 9. Have we gotten any more information on this recently? I haven't seen any source stories updated or anything like that.
Last I saw was just Windows 9 on September 3rd. I didn't know we were going to go Windows Phone that quickly. That'd be awesome.
Windows 9 is going to supposedly be the main focus of this event, so it's not really in our wheelhouse. But we hear we might also get some news, probably not an announcement of the new platform, but just some news about where Microsoft is heading regarding a possible merger of RT and Windows Phone.
And I love the code name they're using for that. They're internally referring to that as Windows Mobile, which is great.
Why not?
Jeez Louise. But they need to be doing that. And I've been thinking, because on the side here I use a Windows 8.1 PC. And with Windows Phone, I keep thinking to myself, like, why is there any benefit for me to use Windows Phone with this? Like, they just don't talk to each other enough. And I feel like even, when you get to the Xbox software on the phones, whatever it's called, the remote software for controlling your Xbox One and 360, it's better on iOS and Android. Like, there's just no... Microsoft should be creating a compelling use case to use Windows Phone if you have, Windows as a computer and Xbox that you don't get on other platforms.
I agree, and that's what I was looking forward to when Windows Phone 8 was on the horizon, along with Windows 8. I thought we were going to see a real unification, a real nice, unified platform push, and you kind of haven't seen that. And instead, what we're seeing on this Windows 9 rumor is that they're going to take out the damn Charms bar, which is, I think, my favorite thing about Windows 8. And I understand that if you're using it on a PC, it's a little awkward. You have to do some touchpad karate to get yourself into the corner there to deploy it. But on a touchscreen, the Charms bar is just wonderful. Once you get into the habit of swiping out from the right-hand side, you have the controls are all there all the time. They're predictable and easy to use. I know
it's got a lot of hate, but I actually like it on touchscreens. I mean, on my computer, it's kind of useless. But so if they just take it out, or make it an option in settings, I mean, it should definitely just be an option if it's already built, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And some people are saying that they're only going to take it out of the desktop implementation, but then we had some counter comments saying, well, if they do that, then it's going to mess with the hooks that devs use for everything. So it's just they're going to cripple it by default. And I don't know if that's true.
Another rumor that popped up unrelated to this is that RT could be losing the desktop part of it altogether, which is always like a fake thing in RT. It wasn't very useful, so...
Yeah, that should never have been included in the first
Office
everywhere.
And they used it as a stopgap, right? Because they had apps that weren't ready in the Metro language yet. So they had OneNote for when RT was released. You couldn't run OneNote in the modern UI. You had to run it on the desktop.
Right.
So that's why they bundled it, which was just weak.
That dichotomy is awful, and that's why I got reamed over everything I ever said about the Surface Pro 3. Jumping between Metro and the desktop UI is so awful.
Actually, I don't mind that. I will say No, I disagree. I don't mind it. I like having the added utility when the machine and the platform have the power necessary to run it. Like on RT, it sucks because you go into desktop expecting that you can do something cool, and 9 times out of 10, you're like, oh, I can't run this because, Whereas on Windows 8, on a proper Windows 8 machine, it's like, oh, okay, I'm done being a tablet now. Now let me switch over. Let me go into notebook mode, and I will go ahead and run programs that I used to run when I was a kid, which is basically all I do with Windows, by the way. I fire up Hugo's House of Horrors or Spitwad Willie.
Nice!
Yeah. My problem was I would go to RDO's website or Pandora in Internet Explorer and have to switch over to desktop mode to do something in Todoist or Evernote or whatever it was that I was using, and as soon as you switch out of that tab in Internet Explorer, there's no background music playing. You can't play music in the background in Internet Explorer. You can't switch it back and forth between things like you should be able to.
Yeah.
It was really odd.
It seems so weird to me. It was like those full screen apps like that. It's like they were trying to pull in sort of the aspects of an iPad, right, where it's just like the app is the only thing that you're using right then, but just didn't do it well at all. I mean, even on Windows here, on my PC, obviously all I use is the desktop, but that implementation was terrible.
I remember using the Surface RT for the first time during... It wasn't our initial review period because Brandon reviewed it, and then he sent it to me, and that was maybe our first review rebuttal, I think. And I was using it, and I was struck by how much I enjoyed the UI and the promise of the new Windows. But, Taylor, I had a similar experience to you where I was streaming WBUR through Internet Explorer, and the Surface kept putting itself to sleep, and when it put itself to sleep, it would terminate the audio stream, and there was no way I could get it to stop doing that. And I was like, this is, it's little things like that, and you get criticized for it by people who want you to love the platform, but it's like, when you put all these little inconveniences together, it does result in a net negative on the whole experience. It's like, I don't want to
The best one was when I plugged it up, the Surface Pro 3, I plugged it up at night before I went to sleep. I woke up, left the charger at home because I was only going to be gone for 2 hours, and I got to Starbucks, and I was out of town. I was visiting my girlfriend. I got to Starbucks, opened it up, 2% battery.
That happened to me several times too. It's like, what the heck? No.
I've just recently installed a software update on the Lumia 1020. I'm finally running the latest build of the developer preview for Windows Phone, so I'm hoping that it stops doing the same thing, Taylor, overnight. It's just freezing and gradually depleting its battery, even though it's on the charger.
Oh, no, this thing just wouldn't charge at all. Like, it had to be on.
Yeah, that was the
widespread problem. If it was in standby
problem,
mode. Yeah. So to get it to turn back on, you'd have to like hold the power button, take off the keyboard, let go of the power button, hold the power button again, put the keyboard back on, and if it didn't work, just try it a couple more times. Like,
so true.
So awful.
You know, I thought, and I was wrong, but I thought when the Lumia 1520 hit, it had the Snapdragon 800, and so does the 2520, I think, right? So I thought that meant that like maybe with Windows Phone 8.1 we were gonna get that convergence between RT and Windows Phone finally, because they were on the same processor, it seemed like, so like why not?
Sure.
And then get the multi-screen support on 1520, I think would be really cool, or apps side by side and all this stuff.
Amazing,
like, wow.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, it hasn't happened yet. You know, and
maybe it'll happen, though.
Microsoft is so slow with so many of these iterations. I mean, I really think that Snap will come to Windows Phone. Right. It is overdue, but boy, it would be great to run apps side by side. You know what? We need a manufacturer to show up on the scene and kind of contest Samsung's hold on the multi-window thing. We have LG. LG does it on the G Flex and their phones and stuff. We have Huawei does a version of it, but nobody does it with as much app compatibility right now as Samsung. You can run a lot of apps in multi-window on Samsung. To have Microsoft show up with Windows Phone, I don't know, 8.5 or whatever, and say, hey, here, use Snap on your Windows Phone, and look, it's compatible with all these apps, and you should use it because it is awesome. Because even on an RT device, I love using side-by-side multitasking. It's great.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying so hard not to be "I told you so" to every time we talk about multi-window, because did we learn nothing from the PC, where in its early days everything was full screen, and then Windows were a revelation?
Yeah.
What we had to do with the smartphones. Did we forget all of that? Of course, multi-window is better.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, why did they do that in Windows? Move to this full.
I feel like Todd was making a great point, and then he vanished. But yeah, we've gone backwards in time a little bit, and we've. You're right, Stephen. We do contradict ourselves as a technological society moving forward. I felt like that when the iPhone came out. I felt like, you know, I had been using smartphones for a long time. I had been able to, say, for example, you know, stream music in the background while doing something else on a Moto Q. And then the iPhone comes out, I'm like, oh, this is way better, except in order to listen to Pandora, I have to have it full screen and I can't do anything else with it. You know, steps backward.
1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Exactly. Steps backward are very common in this industry from time to time, and I think we're approaching a nice confluence of good ideas.
I can understand why we do that, because when we're dealing with new form factors, smaller screens, it's easier to go with a simpler solution and then to build your way up to the more complicated things. But
absolutely, yeah, and that happens in a lot of other industries too. Weird example, but submarines. I'll just say, when the Los Angeles class submarine came out in the 70s, a lot of people thought it was a giant step backward in submarine technology.
A lot of people thought that.
A lot of people thought. You remember? We were all there. We had sweet mustaches and drank a lot of Schlitz and talked about it at the shipyard.
I wasn't involved yet.
Eventually, they eventually rejiggered the Los Angeles concept in 2 separate flights after the initial build, and now it's a very, very capable submarine. And so sometimes you have to take it a few steps backward. You have to go a short way out of your way to come back the right distance correctly, or something.
Yeah, I know. I waited till second generation before I bought my Los Angeles class submarine.
Well, as you should. You never want to buy anything older than a Flight 2 class Los Angeles boat. You got to get the cruise missiles. They are the main thing.
It loses half its value.
Come back to
yeah, Todd, welcome back to U.S. Submarines Today. Now, what are your thoughts on the USS Seaway?
You know what? Forget about this smartphone stuff. We're going to talk about submarines.
On next week's episode, the Mark 48 torpedo and what you can do to evade it. Let's talk about something else. I'm tired of Microsoft. Unless Todd has any closing thoughts on what we can expect. I think we're going to be talking about this a lot in the coming months, so that's why I didn't want to.
I had one thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say on the M8 for Windows.
Yeah.
That I've been playing with. I noticed Ed Bott, who writes over at ZDNet, and he's
Yeah.
a big Windows Phone guy, Windows guy, Microsoft guy, and he said he bought it and returned it already because it didn't have the dedicated camera key, which I thought, was a pretty good point. I think Windows Phone fans have a right to expect that at this point, and I understand that HTC is obviously not going to redesign their whole, supply chain to add that. But.
Listen, you have great points on that. We are going to get to that though, because we're going to spend at least 15 minutes on that one issue, and I have some thoughts on that myself. So yeah, let's close out the news first.
I want to talk about that weird Samsung touch shutter button.
I don't want to. Yeah, that's another thing I distinctly avoided on this show because I know we're going to be talking Note 4 so much in the coming weeks. Let's talk a little bit about this Padphone X that I don't want to buy.
Mini.
Yes. Now we reviewed the Padphone X itself, and I thought that had some kind of good ideas behind it because you were plugging a smallish smartphone into a large-ish tablet. But this Padphone X Mini, while I find it exciting from a nerdy perspective, is sort of like plugging an iPhone 5 into a Galaxy Note 3 size-wise. Like,
I gotta love
happening?
Asus's dedication here. Someone's convinced this idea of docking a smartphone into a tablet makes a lot of sense, and it hasn't been working for them. I assume it has not, because you never see anyone with these. Consumer interest seems nil. And yet it feels like they have this idea that if we just tweak this one thing, maybe the tablet size wasn't right, maybe the orientation that you slide it into is different, then it'll finally gel. It's not going to.
I feel like it's a good idea for a couple of reasons. One, you share the same data connection, so you don't have to tether.
Yeah.
All your information is there, so you don't have to install or manage multiple apps, because I have 2 tablets and 2 phones.
It makes a lot of sense on paper.
40 apps every day.
No, totally. Yeah. And Taylor, you didn't even have a chance to play with ours, did you?
No, I didn't really want to, but...
All right, good point. But these are some of the same conclusions that Joe and I came to when we were playing with our review. You're right. No, Todd goes away again. While we wait for him to come back, this concept is a great one. There are a lot of shortcomings to the execution, but I found myself saying several times while using the Padphone X, the full-size one, not the one we're talking about here, wow, this is amazing. Like, my mind goes to this place where when I switch over to the tablet, I'm like, oh, I've got to, I've got to update this app that I just updated on my phone. Oh, wait, no, I don't, because I'm just using the same piece of hardware. It's the same.
It makes a lot of sense.
It's great.
Jules said we should start talking about subs again.
That's a good point, Jules. No, but Stephen or Taylor, you made the point that it's the same data connection. And when you have a carrier make really uncharacteristic moves like AT&T has done with the first Padphone X, where they say, yeah, we're not going to charge you extra for tablet mode, that's amazingly cool. Like, you're getting a lot of value for your money then, especially since the phone and tablet come in the same box. It's priced really cheaply. Yeah. So, but the thing is, with this one, I just don't see that there's enough of a jump in screen size when you plug in the smartphone to this dock to justify the
full-fledged tablet.
Yeah, and I think the difference is I get a lot of people saying, couldn't you just tether with your tablet and using your phone for your connection? Yeah, but say you have T-Mobile and you have unlimited data. If you tether, you have 5 gigabytes of tethering for free, but if you dock your phone into this tablet, you have unlimited data on your tablet.
Boom. Exactly right.
It's things like that really make a difference.
And also when you some of those features really do work. It really scales adequately with some of these apps. You're looking at something on your phone, you're like, this is too damn small. And Tony sent me the schedule and I can't read it. You pop the thing into the tablet, it takes 3 seconds, and then suddenly you're looking at a spreadsheet on a much bigger thing. Like, that's legit cool. I like it. It doesn't work with Google Play apps. That sucks. But
that's why I think that a lot of not a lot, but I think this concept isn't dead, and it's not going to die until, 1, it either takes off, or 2, we're just like, no, we give up, it's stupid, just stop. And what I mean is, more so than just a tablet, I'm saying, we were talking about this before, if smartphones are encroaching on the computing power of a personal computer or a gaming console, why not have one device and you plug it into peripherals and do different things with it? It's a stupid concept, but if you think about it in the same context as this pad phone, it could work. Not right this second, but 5-10 years, maybe. I don't know. That's something that I've always thought of as possible, or maybe as a possible direction for the industry to go. And I know Miriam Yore, she agreed with me on that.
I have the opposite position. I think that's yesterday's thinking. I think that was very futuristic thinking in 1992. But I just think that we
have this thing called clouds.
That's the thing. So many young people today have their heads in the clouds, and you don't need to have a central hub because it's all hosted on the cloud anyway. Now, for that privilege, we give up a lot of privacy. So maybe we'll see a little reversal of that trend, but I don't think so because people seem perfectly willing to be without their privacy. So I don't know. What is before we lose Todd for the 18th time?
Yeah. All I can think of, I never lose connection. All I can think of is I just updated to the latest Yosemite beta. So
there you go.
Maybe I have a problem there because my desktop, fine.
Fun fact: when we tried to kick off this podcast at least once, Chrome crashed on me and it crashed on Taylor too. So
Firefox, no problems. Just saying.
Ready for Hangouts.
I'm worried. I can't switch my mic over to my PC because it's recording over here, and I don't want to mess it up.
That's all right. Yeah, your third-party track is still rolling, right?
Yep.
All right, sweet. So anyway, let's get Todd's opinion on this ASUS Padphone X, and let's ask Stephen when we can expect to see it, maybe, and then move on.
See, I liked the ASUS Padphone X for the idea, just like Taylor was saying. I like that you can just take it everywhere. You're only worrying about one data connection. You get a larger screen. I think the bezels are terrible on it, and I hate that you're limited to ASUS's software on the tablet side. If you really want it to work right, you can't switch to like the Google Now launcher, which I installed, and then it just gets all jumbled and messy. At least it didn't work properly for me.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my problem with it. Otherwise, I thought it was a neat idea. You know, I always I look at these smaller devices and I think, what can I do? Like, can I make this my work machine for like Starbucks and stuff like that? And I think Taylor, I see on Instagram, you use an iPad Mini pretty frequently with a keyboard, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I just got the Clan Case Pro for the iPad Mini, and that seems like, you know, my new work machine. I'm going to try in like coffee shops and stuff like that. But originally I thought the Padphone X would be it, but yeah.
It works, but not that well.
Yeah. I miss that problem. I miss the problem that's supposed to solve, because like my work machine is a MacBook Air, and I take it everywhere, and like every time I go to take a tablet and a keyboard dock with me, because you know my mind still goes back to like 2010, and I'm like, oh yeah, this will be way more portable than my 12-pound HP laptop. But then I'm like, wait, no, this Lumia 2520 with the power keyboard is like 2 pounds heavier than my MacBook Air. Like, what am I doing?
I know, that's true. For me, it's battery life. My MacBook Air is a 2012, and it lasts like an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, mine is too, and I feel
battery life, and I have a really, really short attention span. So if I'm only looking at one thing, it's great because I just do not disturb. And I have a MacBook in front of me. I have like 8 windows open.
I will say that while we're talking about that, you know, the Padphone X, if you got it with the keyboard dock, which was a heavy sumbitch, but it had to be to keep the tablet upright. That was like a pretty good value because I think the keyboard dock added $100 to it, so you're paying $299, and for that you get a keyboard dock, a tablet, a smartphone, and a data plan that didn't change based on whether you were using the phone, the tablet, or the phone-tablet dock. I mean, for a back-to-school offer for someone who's trying to save...
In part 1 of this review series, the smartphone half of the...
Jules is helpfully playing an awesome video with the sound on, and now hopefully that's been repaired. So I just think it's a pretty compelling back-to-school offering. But I also don't see a lot of people buying it. But yeah, Stephen, what's up?
For as much as we like this idea of you just slide the phone in and it's your device there on a tablet-sized screen, I'm not sure that shoppers are necessarily so enamored with a tablet that's useless when the phone's not attached. I think that they hear about this and might be seeing it as a downside and would like, okay, I can slide the phone out and give it some functionality, have processor in there, some storage, maybe Wi-Fi only, but just so the kids can use it while you're on your phone, and then when you slide your phone in there, have the phone sort of take over and give the full Padphone experience we're familiar with. That's, I think, what they need to do for the next gen model. But as gives me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a Chromebook or something that had Chrome OS, and then like you could, I don't know, add your phone so you get the data connection. Maybe, I don't know. Just kind of besides having to tether it.
But ASUS, like everyone else on the planet, has an IFA press event coming up here, so we might be getting confirmation of this guy in just another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I refuse to call it IFA. It's IFA in my mind.
I was going to say, like, Stephen, you are holding fast to your principles on that.
IFA sounds weird. I don't know.
So does IFA.
It's funny because in Germany, like, you know, it's not just IFA, but it's presented with the article, the IFA. So it's like, you know, people ask you, like, you are from America. Are you here for the IFA? I'm like, yes, I totally am. It's great times. I know, Steve.
Not cess.
It's not. It's not fair. It's not fair. The Nexus HTC Nexus tablet might be exciting to some people. I can't really get too excited about tablets these days. But can we talk about it very briefly, Stephen? Someone who cares?
NVIDIA powered HTC.
Wait. Hold on.
NVIDIA again?
No. Right? Tell me it's not true, please.
Yeah, NVIDIA K1.
Come on, man.
It could be good. We don't know.
It can't be good.
Well,
there's no way it's good.
There's the two K1s. And this is it might be the 64-bit one. I'm not sure if the timing works there because there's been this idea that this Nexus tablet would debut with the public release of Android L, 64-bit support. They might want to capitalize on that. I don't know.
I don't have any
we've lost
processors, but man, I just like I cannot pretend to be excited about anything powered by a Tegra.
All I'm saying is the Tegra 4 was an absolute monster. You guys didn't have
in a good or bad way.
Hold up. No. Taylor, I had the chance to play with the Tegra 4i. It powered the black phone.
4i is not the 4.
I couldn't
No.
wait
I'm
to
talking
send
about
that away from myself.
Difference. 4i.
I'm talking about the 4 in the NVIDIA Shield.
Yeah.
Okay, right. In a gaming console, it works well. On a desktop, they're friggin' beasts. I understand it, but I'm not convinced they know what they're doing in mobile.
I don't know. I'd give them a chance just after using the Shield. That thing, and I know I don't put a lot of faith in benchmarks, but just briefly for benchmarks, I think it was Antutu. This thing scored like some 36,000.
Oh God, I know, but the thing is, I saw the benchmarks on the 4i versus the Snapdragon 800 were amazing too, and I had a horrible time on Black Phone in terms of running the software that the thing is built for. I had a horrible time on the first gen Nexus 7 after 4 months when the things decided to crap out. Like, it's just, what the hell?
Did any of you guys get a chance to play with the Tegra Shield? I think it was last year. No, the last year one.
Yeah, I had it. I was supposed to review it, but
how was the performance on that?
That's what I was
a full-fledged 4.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That thing was great.
No, hold up. And I saw the Shield, and I remember like someone was taking me through a demo of the Shield, the UI, and like it was
Tegra Note. That was it.
Lagging and freezing and like it wasn't. I don't know. Nothing. Jules has thrown up some stats. And like these are very impressive. Listen, I know I'm talking like a lot of mess right now. I know I'm throwing a lot of shade, and I don't mean to. It's just that I've legit never been impressed with a Tegra chipset on a mobile device. And if anyone wants to change my opinion on that, I am happy to receive a device at my office to do so.
We need to get our hands on one of those Tango tablets with the Tegra and the reality mapping.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Pull some strings, make that happen.
Those things look awesome.
I'm bored already. You want to do gadgets in hand, everybody?
Wait, we forgot the most important part of that is October 9th, supposedly released by. So not necessarily an IFA announcement, but maybe shortly there.
Not for the IFA. The most exciting part about this whole thing is the graphic Jules whipped up for the thing. All right, let's move on. I want a wearable from HTC before I want a tablet from HTC. Tablets are dead. Thank you. There's the sound. This is a segment called Gadgets in Hand. This is a segment where we take devices that we have either reviewed or we've received for review, and we hold them up before you, studio audience, thusly, and tell you all about how we have them and how we are ready to receive your questions regarding them. Oh, whoa, Todd.
And how we're better than
the green 1520.
Todd's got the green Lumia 1520 alongside the HTC One M8 and the special edition Xbox case, which, you know, hey, do what you want, right? We're focusing on the HTC One M8 for Windows, and we do have a lot of Q&As in the queue regarding this, but I think we first wanted to touch on, Todd, you were trying to make a point about the lack of a dedicated camera button before, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's a staple, and I hope I don't lose connection while I'm talking now. I apologize. I feel like that's a staple of Windows Phone. It's something everybody expects now, and then when you see like huge fans. Ed Bott, I mean, loves Windows Phone too, and he bought the phone, which is a great phone, right? Like everybody, I think, kind of agrees M8's a great phone.
Yeah. With
Windows on it, and then returns it because it doesn't have a camera button. And like I don't know the answer to that because I know HTC probably doesn't have the capacity to just build a whole new line, a whole new model, just to add the camera button.
Right.
But it also doesn't have the gesture controls, which probably could have alleviated some of that, where you pick it up and turn the phone like this on Android.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned that at the launch event to Greg Sullivan from Microsoft, and we kind of talked about that very, very briefly. But I will say this. There are a couple of things built into Windows Phone 8 that make this a little easier to deal with. First, you can pin a tile to the home screen, or whatever. But you can also, in Action Center and the toggles up top, you can make one of those toggles a camera toggle. So, there's that.
What about that hardware thing with the button? Does that work on Windows Phone? The earphone jack button thing?
Oh, Pressy?
Yeah.
No, I'm sure that's not supported by Windows Phone.
Taylor's a long shot.
Pressy expert, but that would be amazing if that worked for Windows Phone. Taylor?
I don't think it does. I think they just have an Android app.
This is what I'm talking about. We just did the comparison with the Android 1.8 versus the Windows M8, and people in the comments are already kind of saying how I was less charitable toward Windows Phone than I have been in the past, and I still really like the platform, don't get me wrong, but these are the kind of things you run into that people are very willing to dismiss when they want to stick up for Windows Phone. It's like, I don't care about wearables, who cares? Well, all right. Well, do you care about the rest of the ecosystem, like fun stuff like Pressy that doesn't support Windows Phone? Someone please come out and tell me wrong. Or like, an official YouTube app. And then people are like very validly, well, the MyTube app is really excellent. Yes, indeed it is. But it doesn't have the account.
It's a third-party app, and there are about 80 terrible third-party YouTube clients.
Yeah, but
there's like Pocket that I need to use.
And like another good example is SixTag, which is a much better Instagram client than the official one, but it still doesn't have all the features of the new official Instagram client for Android and iOS, some of which are very useful. So it's like Windows Phone is still a frustrating platform to use for me, even though I like it very much. It still has shortcomings that are, significant compared to Android. So I think that's something to consider. But I agree, Todd. The lack of a hardware camera button really made me sort of sad.
Can I just say that every phone, not just Windows phones, every phone should have a hardware shutter button.
Every phone.
Nice. The cameras are far more important than they were 2-3 years ago. And that's when we had shutter buttons. So on everything, not just Windows Phone, but.
Yeah, and it's not
like
just
this thing.
Launching the thing either. It's not like launching the camera is. There are ways around that. Like Motorola does the hand twisty thing and whatever. It's half press to focus. It's shooting with the shutter buttons. Being able to like give somebody your phone and be like, hey, take our picture. Thank you. It's right on top. It's the button there. You don't have to like pick a software key. There's so many reasons to have a hardware camera key, and the fact that Microsoft took out that requirement in 8.1 is not my favorite thing they've ever done.
Uh-oh. Whoa.
Hey, we know that guy.
Hey! Whoa. Everyone say hello to Jaime Rivera. Welcome aboard, friend.
I can't unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
What's up, dude? What's up?
I sent you an email, unbeknownst to my fellow co-host. We've just started talking about the HTC One M8 for Windows, and we'll get back to that in a second. But I brought you in here because of popular demand. Do you know what the number one upvoted Q&A question or comment in our comment thread currently is?
When am I going to do the bucket test or what?
Jaime Rivera should do the ice bucket challenge. Smiley face, says Orangey456.
Right.
The internet is telling you. Now I know you frequently lose power where you are, so like maybe the next time you do that, you have a charged camera nearby, and you find a bucket.
I'll tell you this much: I just found $100 under my drawer, man.
Well, that sounds terrific. You can do the cop out like me and donate instead.
Exactly, dude. I was about to say I know of a Estonian that ended up just $100. That's it.
I think that's what Todd's boss is going to do. I challenged John yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Received the challenge. So what, is he donating?
He commented back on my video yesterday, or just actually right when I hopped on here, and he said donation time. So Brad, however, accepted the challenge, but he's not going to do it today.
This is Brad Mullen from Engadget, everyone. Taylor, let everyone in on the joke.
Yeah, he's actually going to film it with his Windows Phone M8 and
nice.
put it in the review. Is what he
That's,
said. So.
Oh, that's very crafty. I should have thought of that.
Well, remember Johnson, California, where they have a drought and they recommend saving the water.
Conservation.
They recommend doing it in
doing the pool
beer or something. Well, anyway, it's awesome. So, Jaime, I just wanted to tell you that your audience is demanding that you participate. So I wanted to let you know about that. Do my civic duty. I'm sorry to have bothered you.
No. Hey, dude, the power goes out here so often that, it feels like ice water when you take a shower without the damn heater working.
But don't bum.
So I'm kind of used to it, but fine, I accept the challenge. I just won't be able to do it today or tomorrow. I'll do it on Sunday.
Well, we will all look forward to that. If you can keep it to 15 seconds or less, put it on the Pocketnow Instagram account. That'll be fun to watch.
That's the thing. I'll upload it on my Instagram and then re-Instagram it on the Pocketnow Instagram.
That sounds perfect. I really like it. Well, thank you, Jaime. I think we're going to go back to talking about the Windows Phone M8. Do you have any thoughts on this device before we start fielding some reader questions?
21 hours of battery life. My God.
That's stated. Now we're going to get to that, right? Because I want to get.
Okay, I want to hear you before I have to start editing this video because I just finished filming the daily.
Well, let's talk about that, Todd. A lot of people are asking about the battery life on the Windows Phone M8, and I want to know what your experience has been because mine has been promising, but honestly, I've been testing it too harshly to gather any real data.
Yeah, I'm probably with you. I've been using it lightly so that to the point where it's still at half battery. And when did we get these? 2 days ago?
Yeah, I think so. Or Tuesday, right?
So very lightly. But I mean, I don't know. It seems like it's good, and I saw some other reports that are saying it's better than Android. So I'm excited to see what we get on that. But again, how do you properly sort of test that? I mean, you can't really benchmark it the right way, right?
Right.
Such different operating systems.
Do a stupid like a video looping thing or something. It doesn't really tell you because it's identical hardware in this case. It's an M8. It's just running different software. So you really have to do a side-by-side consumption test, which, by the way, I did once before when the quad-core Galaxy S4 came out right after the regular one, and I've spent a day using them seriously with them glued both to my hands and just doing the exact same thing on each one. And I got some cool data from that, but it was like, I don't know, I'm sure if it was worth the 11-hour investment of time.
Yeah, right.
So
I don't know. Good so far. And for me, if it gets me through the day and then a little more, I have the G3 here that I'm using right now.
Yeah.
And I didn't even charge it last night. And I woke up this morning, it was at 23%, which is perfect. That's amazing. That means that, I can go get my coffee, come back to my desk, sit down, and plug it in again.
Sure.
And it looks like the M8 Windows Phone is pretty much on that kind of same level, getting you more than a full day's use.
Windows Phone had a well-earned reputation for solid battery life for a while, but I want to say that it's kind of in the same category as its responsiveness, because back in the day, you could run Windows Phone 7 and 7.5 on a device with really low specs. To a degree, you could do that with 8 too. 8 runs pretty well on the Lumia 520, but it's not the same as it was, and that goes for battery life too, in my experience. We've had to sacrifice some things to make Windows Phone a more powerful platform, and some of those things have been, in my opinion, battery life and performance in some regards.
I actually sat and used the 1020 the other weekend and was just browsing pictures of the shore years ago. I don't know, history stuff. And I used it for 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours, pretty much straight, and the battery died. And I was like, whoa, man, this is terrible.
Yeah, it's really... some platforms can't get rid of their bad reputations, and other platforms can't. People refuse to see how they've sort of changed over time, and that's why I'm happy at how Windows Phone 8 has developed. I'm just saying that there are costs associated with that, and battery life is one of them. So we'll have to see what the story is on that.
How is Blink Feed on Windows Phone?
Oh, it's cool.
That was my next question.
Blink Feed. It depends on how you feel about Blink Feed. I think I tend to like it.
I love it, yeah.
I think I like it a little better. This is weird because Blink Feed has always reminded me of Windows Phone on Android, but I think I like it a little better on Android because it seems to be laid out better. Todd, what do you think?
I like it better on Android too because I leave it over to the left, sort of as not my primary home screen. I just like the quick and easy swipe, and I'm not complaining. It's just one tap away. On Windows Phone too, but really, I don't know. I'm so used to just swiping over and being like, all right.
If you're not complaining, friend, then I will. All right.
All right, I'm complaining.
But can also save your articles to Pocket from BlinkFeed on Android. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to email them to
Yeah, there's no Pocket for Windows.
With Microsoft itself, and I said this in the briefing we got. I was like, for ages, since its inception, Windows Phone has not used the leftmost panel, the leftmost home screen panel. It has been, you just can't swipe in that direction, and it has no utility whatsoever. That's where we wanted them to put the Action Center for a while. They still have not done anything with it, and that would have been the perfect place for BlinkFeed, and yet it's not there. And this is sad to me. But in exchange, you get a live tile for it, so that's nice. But I just think the layout in Android is a little prettier. I think it has that magnetic stickiness now in Android where you can swipe it page by page, which it had initially, and then they took it away. Now it's back. So I just think it's a little smoother in Android, but I do like that it's there in Windows Phone now. What about Sense TV? Have you used that yet, Todd?
No, I have not.
I've fired it up, and it's pretty cool looking, and it works really well.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So there's that. Oh yeah, there's Sense TV. Jules is right on top of it. What else are people asking about this sucker here? I'm scrolling down the thing. Yeah, this is a statement. This isn't a question, but it was here. It's like the first Q&A we got from Nikhil Rain says, Zoe, not available for M8 for Windows. Very true. Very sad. But I don't think it's that bad. Jaime, did you have a thought on that?
How do you guys feel? So, how do you guys feel about the fact that Zoe is now working on every other Android phone, and if this whole HTC creative department is going to start building HTC applications that have differentiated, HTC products, then what will HTC use to differentiate in the future?
I think if HTC keeps coming up with cool ideas and cool ways to grow those platforms that it's pushing, I think, because eventually they'll monetize it, right? Yeah. Eventually they'll find a way to monetize Zoe if it's successful enough, and that's how I think that's probably their long-term plan,
Hey, Sony, pre-install our Zoe app on your Xperia devices for small fee.
But I don't know that anyone's been buying HTC phones because of the software. I mean, it's nice that it's there. It's nice that it works well. It's nice that the UI is a lot better than it has been in the past. But I think we're buying the HTC phones largely because of the hardware.
That's very true, but also it's kind of changed this year. I've been using HTC phones since the Nexus 1. Actually, before that, since Windows Mobile.
Same
but
here.
I used to buy them for hardware, and now that I really actually like Sense. I didn't like Sense 5. It was just it was almost there. Now I have a One M8 that's a personal phone. I converted it to a Google Play Edition for some other reasons, because of that whole boot loop problem with my car stereo. But now I miss it. I miss Sense. Like, that phone feels incomplete without Sense. And that's saying something, because as long as I can remember, I've been what most people would call an Android purist. I like stock Android. I really do, but I miss using Sense UI.
I'll tell you this much. The reason why... So I've been using HTC phones since the compact iPad 3630, since the Pocket PC days.
Nice.
So go ahead and one-up me. That's fine.
Yeah. When did I buy into, HTC there is some value to it? Everybody remember Touch Flow 3D on the Touch Diamond?
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. Oh.
That was gorgeous. When you looked at a Windows Mobile phone back there, and you looked at the Touch Diamond, and what was it? Surely it was designed, but it was really the software. The software looks so beautiful.
Right, and Jaime, why is that? That's because you had to cover up the ugly nonsense of Windows Mobile 6, right?
True.
So that's why I love that. That's the root, the root story of Sense. It's like it emerged because of a necessity to make Windows Mobile prettier and more touch-friendly. And then when it was ported to Android, it was done at a time when Android itself was really ugly and really gross.
Exactly.
But then it outlived its usefulness, because those underlying platforms got much better, or they were totally reinvented. And now HTC showed a way to adapt to that, to where, like Taylor was saying, Sense 6 is great, and I don't like using an HTC phone with a Google Play Edition launcher, because I feel like I'm missing out on something when I'm not using the new Sense.
Same here. That's I'll admit that's the only reason why. Okay, so not a really big fan of the camera. I don't know if you've had this problem, but whenever you use cases with the One M8, the lint ends up making this like minor little scratch on the gunmetal finish. Have you guys had that experience?
Not yet.
I've used 4 different cases.
The gunmetal case, though, it is susceptible to scratching, like whoa.
Yeah. Okay, so that's
whoa.
But I still can't stop using this phone. I still can't.
Yeah.
Nick Gray had an interesting thought on that on Untethered in one episode, talking about the One M8 and how with metal phones like that, with the brushed metal, you get this kind of patina like you would get on a metal desk or something, where all the scratches eventually come to give it a lot of character and make it look really cool.
I totally agree. You should see. Where's my iPhone?
I don't.
I can't.
Some barkeeper's friend. Just rub it on there, polish it.
I don't know.
I agree. I think it does give it kind of some character after a while. At first, it looks really junky. It's kind of like, it's like a used, machine.
Well, unlike making copper smartphone, that would look pretty.
Yeah. They made a copper dumb phone. Motorola had one back in the day. They made the i830 for Nextel in copper because that was going to be the fashionista's color choice for 2004. Like copper was the new hotness. And I was like, this is the ugliest thing. I waited until they made it in silver to actually buy it.
You guys remember the MacBook Pro titanium?
Oh God, no.
The yellowish finish on the Mac, like the first ever MacBook Pro was made of titanium.
Wow. All right. Well, hold on. Let's answer another question here. We were talking about Zoe before, and Zoa Jared said, which would be better, the HTC One M8 camera software, Android, or the HTC M8 for Windows camera software?
It's the same.
Well, it's not quite the same. Yeah, Todd, you want to feel this one?
Well, yeah, you take out Zoe, but I think you also, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you also cut out a lot of the shortcuts, don't you?
You cut out some of the options in, I think, exposure and ISO. You don't have quite as many. Or no, it's not those. It's the filters.
The filters are not there either.
You also lose dual capture, so you can't put your face in in the corner of a shot. Which, I mean, who cares? But that's gone. Like you go through those little options at the bottom of the screen in the camera viewfinder, and you notice that just almost every category has had, or every other category has had, like a couple options culled from it. So it's not exactly the same. It feels exactly the same when you're shooting with it, but if you take them side by side, you can see a couple missing things. And also, when you're like doing video highlights, or if you're doing not Zoe's because you can't, but when you're editing photos, you have to do all that in a separate app. Oh, that's it, Todd. It's the UFocus stuff.
Yeah, UFocus stuff is different.
Yep, that's been culled down.
But I think what, and I don't see it now, but I could be wrong. I don't think you can save, like, you know how you could save on the Android version these different camera settings? Like I have one for HDR and stuff.
I have one for HDR too, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that on this.
Ooh, that's a good question. I want to see. Well, this is the whole purpose of this segment, is to do it is to find out live on the air if we can answer these questions. Let's see. There's a.
That's one of the best things about the camera, because you can set up different cameras for different things. So you could set up high exposure for a certain scenario, and just save that for a certain scenario. You go and switch your camera, so you don't have to go through your settings.
Well,
that's one of the best things about the camera.
On HTC phones, you actually need to do low exposure, man.
Yes.
The overexposure on the photo sometimes is like, oh my god.
Well, it just swings so wildly when you tap to focus. Like it changes the character of the photo so drastically depending on what you're tapping on.
Well, but after you have One M8, so I can have opinions on it.
Hey,
I'm sorry, Steven. I feel badly now.
We're all sorry, Steven. We're all.
Steven, I'll send you the review loaner that's for Verizon.
Yay!
Let's see. I'm still hunting for stuff here. The M8. We have a lot of questions on the M8, and people are also actually sending us questions for the what's it called, for the Crystal, which I want to talk about very briefly. But Trevor Reese asks, what Nokia apps are available or are missing, whichever's easier to comment on the One M8 for Windows Phone? This is something I was concerned about because, for a while there, Nokia was keeping a real tight clamp on their HERE and all that kind of stuff. But ever since the acquisition, or just before the acquisition, now we can have HERE Maps and HERE Transit and HERE Drive on any Windows phone, basically. And I mentioned I was concerned about it in my first hands-on because, Todd, I don't know if this was the same case for you, but during the brief, I was trying to download those HERE apps onto the demo device, and I couldn't find them in the Windows Store, and I was like, oh, no. Am I going to have to put up with Bing Maps and, like, Telenav,
Yeah, Telenav. Sorry, Telenav. Yeah, they're there.
They are there, yeah. I'll lock the camera on Todd there. He's got the whole here suite. And I've downloaded them too, and they work fine. So I don't know what apps are not here. I was a little sad to see. Does anybody remember the HTC 8X when that first came out?
Mm-hmm. I have it there in a drawer if you want it.
Yeah, so Jaime, you remember the HTC, what was it called? The little clock widget they had.
Yeah, that's a really cool one. Is it on the
No, they've taken out the special HTC store that's no longer in the Windows Store. There's not like a Nokia collection for HTC anymore. It's just not there.
That was so cool, man.
And that was the thing. That was the thing that HTC did on Windows Mobile software better than anybody else. It's weird because it's so minor and dumb, but they had the best clock widget.
Yeah, they still have the best clock widgets.
I want to know if I can take my One M8 that I have right here and put Windows Phone on it. That's what I want to know.
That's a question that we all have, dude.
Yeah, right.
So maybe I should experiment this weekend. I obviously can't do it because nobody's got anything out there for it, but I should research this weekend, and when it comes available, maybe I'll try it and do a video on it.
I mean, there's
literally no difference, in the hardware. So why wouldn't you be able to do it, right?
That's my theory. Jaime, just for the record, R2D2 has also taken the Ice Bucket or the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. So you gotta step up your game.
R2D2. That sounds like a very good friend of mine, R2D2. That used to be his code. I'm gonna make a couple of phone calls right now.
Nice. I think we're coming to the bottom of the bucket, as it were, on the Q&As for the what's it called? So we get to watch Taylor dump the bucket of water on his head.
Yes, I'm gonna do the ice beer bucket challenge.
So I want to ask Todd what his general impressions are so far. I don't think either one of us is going to have a review up this weekend. I don't know. I won't ask about that. But
I think it's a compelling device, and I like that Windows Phone fans now have an option of just. I mean, I'm not going to say. I got to phrase this properly because I really want
to be careful.
Nokia's hardware, right? Like I think it's great, but I think Windows Phone fans have sort of been left off this metal bandwagon and like all these other options that are out there, and now they have a choice, and I think the choice is great. But it does still lack like the dedicated camera button and things like that I think, are kind of going to be a setback for some people. But I really like it so far. For me, I think I said this publicly. Like Windows Phone is not a daily driver for me because it lacks the apps that I really use a lot.
And that's the common
Yeah. I still think it's a great platform for the people who don't need those apps, but I do. So I just it's getting there.
I just want to take one of your points that you made and kind of further it just a hair. You said that Windows Phone now has that metal option and a really, really nice phone that is not Nokia or from Nokia to choose from. But it's not even just that. It's that they literally have an Android phone running Windows Phone software.
Yeah.
And it's not even just any Android phone. It's one of the best Android phones of the year running Windows Phone. So I think that's a win for Windows Phone as a whole.
I agree, and it's great to see. I was at last night in between editing this, being on Untethered and stuff, I went to the bar and had a drink or two with my girlfriend, and she spent about 20 seconds with the M8 for Windows and said what I'd been thinking since I picked it up. This hardware and this software were made for each other. And it's so surprising to me because it's just it's not the way it debuted. The M8 obviously launched with Android. It launched with that Sense skin that we all have been talking about how much we love. And I kind of got the feeling when I picked it up that maybe it would be a Frankenstein kind of thing. I wouldn't feel right running Windows Phone on this hardware. But it looks so amazing, and it just plays so nicely with it. And HTC's history with Windows sort of comes back in behind and reinforces that a little bit. Someone on email asked this, and I didn't put it in the rundown because it was an outdated question, because it was like, if the M8 launches with Windows, which one would you buy, this one or the Android one? I have no qualms carrying a Windows Phone as my daily driver because I do it half the time anyway. I would buy the Windows one. It's just so much... It just
I have
fits
one last question.
so nicely. Yeah.
boom sound. How did I not ask about that before? Boom sound on Windows Phone M8. How does it compare? Is it? I mean, I didn't watch your comparison. Is it the same?
Yeah, it's as far as I'm able to discern, it is the same. Yeah, I played the same track side by side, and it's got the same settings panel with no options except on or off.
Okay.
But
I was just curious because I know HTC is limited in what they can do with the software. So.
Oh yeah, actually no, and they're not that limited. Microsoft. So I mentioned this in the hands-on, but Microsoft kind of came a-knocking on HTC's door to build this thing, and so they were able to surrender quite a bit of not surrender control, but they were able to collaborate a lot. You know, the deep hooks for the camera app that are required, Microsoft was happy to get to work together on that. The boom sound integration is fine. They didn't put blink feed in the right place, but you can't have it all.
Yeah.
I don't want to dwell on that anymore, but I'm having a great time with this thing. I really like the marriage of this hardware and software, and I'm looking forward to using it all weekend and honing my opinions further. Yeah, it'll be cool to read your review, Todd.
How much longer till one of you loses your mind and throws away that Xbox case?
I like the Xbox. You don't like it?
I was about to say.
I love lime green.
I love that green, dude.
I love lime green. Like half the things I own are lime green. It's just the dot view case is so horrible.
No, it's not. You are messed up in the head if you.
I have an orange one somewhere
ever.
I love the dot view case and how it looks when it's closed, but when it's open, it is the worst thing ever made.
I totally agree. You fold the dot view case back on itself to type on the thing, and then it bounces like.
You can't type with the dot view case on. I tried to type with Minium with that case on, and it was the worst thing I've ever had to do on a phone. You can't because Minium is so Minium is gesture based. So I was like, I'd type a whole word out and then accidentally delete because the phone bounced into my thumb. Like,
yeah, but that's not a phone. That's not a case problem. That's a keyboard problem.
No, Minium is great.
And no, I think when it comes to the dot view case, any problem that could conceivably be a case problem is probably a case problem. Yeah. But it doesn't matter because how cool is this? It is the coolest looking thing.
You know, that's the only cool thing about it.
Thing is cool.
It's all it needs.
That thing is cool up to the point where somehow you don't know how a gesture ended up redialing a number. You're not.
Yes. Oh yeah, the down
noticing. But noticing. You're wearing a headset that's compatible with two phones at the same time. You're not noticing that the phone dialed, and you're talking to somebody else on the other phone. That's when you start.
You got to be careful about that. That's what you got to.
Start hating that case.
Jeez, what are you, some kind of amateur? No, what's great about the dot view implementation on Windows Phone is actually better than Android, because on Android, when you swipe down, you get that crappy HTC voice dialer that sucks.
God, right. I hate it.
But on Windows, you swipe down and you get Cortana, and Cortana is actually really helpful and useful. So, hooray. Good times.
Hooray.
Good times, great oldies. There's one Crystal question here, and I can't frickin' find it before we go into listener mail.
What's the price? There was one that, what is the price?
Oh, okay. The Sharp. Oh, it was Sharp, not Crystal, right? I can't spell it. The price. I think Stephen has not had the opportunity to talk for a while. So, do you remember it, Stephen?
Top of my head. It depended based on the carrier. I think the Sprint full price version was, I want to say like $240.
I think it was $240 exactly. It was $239.99. Yep.
And a little bit cheaper if you go with Version or Boost.
Significantly cheaper if you want Version Boost. $149.
Yeah.
For this frickin' Crystal phone.
It's not super high specs. I mean,
no.
I think Snapdragon 400, 720p screen, but that bezel,
oh my God, it's so cool looking. Like I didn't expect.
Bezel, all chin.
It's okay. I've always there's nothing wrong with a nice chin. I think.
You know what I wish a manufacturer would bring back, and specifically HTC. The Dreams chin.
Is that the one that stuck out a little bit?
Yeah. It's like a superhero chin.
I'm really into that. But no, this chin does not stick out, which whatever. But it's what a cool thing. I held this thing. I was kind of at this event out of convenience because like the HTC one is in on the next day. I was like, okay, we'll go see what they're doing. And then I was just blown away by this thing. It's got a plastic display protective layer, which isn't too impressive. Steven, you're right. It's got a Snapdragon 400, but I was just so blown away by the fit and finish, at least from the front. On the backside, it looks like a Galaxy S5 with smaller dimples. But what do you think, Todd?
Yeah, I thought it was really impressive too. I went into the event like, man, what's going to be? You know, it's 720p display, Snapdragon 400, like you said, and I actually was like, holy cow, this is a really nice phone.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy for me. I keep thinking this, like these Snapdragon 400 processor phones, like that's what powers these Android Wear watches. Right?
I know. It's crazy. Right?
Like, so what's going on over here? These should be more powerful. But and I actually thought, I mean, I guess the plastic overlay was kind of weird, but I actually thought like looking around the corners, it kind of added to that whole like there's really sort of no bezels here. I kind of liked it. But
did you fire up the viewfinder when you were holding it?
No.
If you fire up the camera viewfinder while you're holding this thing, it's like you're holding just a sheet of glass. It's ridiculous.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
The weird thing is where the front-facing camera is, where it has to be. It has to be on the bottom.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a video call, the person on the other end, if you're doing portrait, they're getting like an up-nose shot.
Yeah, they're getting a chin shot
as well. From below.
But you know what the great thing is about it though is not the front-facing camera position, but they did what we've wanted them to do, where I keep saying that someday we're going to have a bezel-less phone that's all glass and whatever, and everyone's like, what do you do with the earpiece? Well, you make it a piezoelectric direct conduction thing. That's exactly what they did with this. So instead of having an earpiece, they just vibrate the display at the proper frequencies to reproduce sound, and I'm sure the sound quality probably sucks, and it's probably just like the Kyocera Toric where you can hear the conversation if you're 2 feet away, but it should be great. What, Steven?
Who makes voice calls anyway?
Yeah, that's
sounds like they're underwater.
Yeah, it does actually a little bit. But I want one of these so bad. I want to. I've never wanted to review a mid-range phone as hard as I want to review this. So
I guess this is making me super aware of what's going on in Japan. Sharp has a ton of these AQUOS phones out. They don't all look as super no bezel as this, but they're in the same ballpark, and we're just missing out on a lot of them. We need to send one of us over to Japan with a big bag and stock up, bring them all back for us.
I think SoftBank's partnership with Sprint's probably helping bring a lot of these over.
Yeah,
exactly right. Like this is reminding me of the days when Sprint had that Sanyo exclusive partnership, and they were the only carrier to carry Sanyos, and that was, okay, whatever. But now they have Sharp building these pretty impressive things. Good for Sprint for actually doing something right.
The difference with Sanyo is those Sanyo phones were horrible. This one is actually cool.
Hold on, yeah, no, I won't disagree with you, but the Sanyo fanboy community was so intense.
It was.
If you said anything bad about him on Howard forums, like you got roasted. It was
that
crazy.
Sanyo Boost phone that was like a mirror. Was
that's the one I was thinking of. That mirror-looking one.
And I sold probably 60 of those when I worked at Best Buy.
What, like it had a mirror finish, but the external display shone through it when it was on? Is that what the deal was?
Yeah, and it had a capacitive dial pad on the outside.
Yeah, that thing was nice.
That was embedded in the mirror.
Right. Everything crazy that could be built into a phone was made by Sanyo.
Yes.
Well, remember the Motorola one with the glass cover that came down?
Oh yeah.
Also, what was that called?
It was like a pseudo smartphone.
I have one. It's the A1000. It's the A1200. I have one.
Oh yeah. That was wild. So it was a pseudo smartphone. It had the Motorola's complementary proprietary UI, and
it sucked. It sucked.
No, but it looked like a communicator. It looked like it had a flip. It had a hinge on the top. You flipped it up, and you could use it while it was closed though too. Yeah. Because it was a touch-sensitive flip. Oh, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I liked that. Was really cool. I actually let me see if it still works. You never know.
I want to do a throwback on that, even though it's not a what's it called?
Touch-sensitive cover that had a big Motorola emblem right in the middle of it.
Yeah. That was the earpiece. Awesome. That was actually the earpiece.
I'm just saying, it's touch sensitive and you can use it with the flap down, but there's a big Motorola emblem right in the middle of the touchscreen.
Oh,
I remember.
Nobody finds about that. That's okay. What do you say, guys? Should we move on? We're getting close to the 2-hour mark. Should we do the old listener mail? Todd, can you stick around for that?
Yeah. What do we have? What's the 2-hour mark? I don't even know.
Just got 3 questions here. Thank you for the announcement. Dong dong, bong bong, Jules. I appreciate it. Stephen Shank should read one of the pieces of listener mail, I think, because he hasn't spoken in a little while, and we'd like to keep things balanced. And we have
Bless your heart.
Steven gets to read this one. Jaime can read the next one because he was gracious enough to show up on an unscheduled manner so that people could tell him to dump ice water on his head. And Robo Todd is nice enough to stick around for listener mail so he can read the third one. This is fun.
This is working out well.
Yeah. I don't care what order we do this in.
Right, I have one pulled up here.
Great.
We have Sahen Rai writes, "Hello, Mr. Fisher and company. I know you guys like short questions, therefore mine will be as such.
Good.
My question for the podcast is," and he asks for a drum roll, so Jules. We'll add it in post. What was the first app you installed? Short question indeed.
Awesome question.
I have an answer. Vigo. Anybody remember that? Vigo. Viigo.
I remember that. You could speak to it. You could speak to it, and it was a.
Nope. It was a.
That only showed a picture of Jason Vigo on the screen at all times.
That was Bilingo. Yeah, that was Bilingo.
Yeah, Vigo was like a social reader for BlackBerry. Oh yeah, it was serious. It was like an RSS reader, Twitter, and a couple other things all in one. Way back in 2006.
Wow, that's nice. All right, I'll take that. Well, since you're talking about BlackBerry, Taylor, I'll answer with mine. My first app was also a BlackBerry app. It was called BB Lite, and what this app did was very simple because I carried a BlackBerry 7520 on Nextel, and it had a backlight, but it had a backlight button, and if you wanted the backlight, you had to press the button, and then the backlight would time out regardless of what you were doing on the screen. You had to keep hitting the button like it was annoying. So BB Lite would sit there in the background. It was just a tiny little background process that ran, and if you touched anything, it would illuminate the backlight, any key. And these were the kind of apps we had to download to make BlackBerries usable in 2004.
That's actually not what I thought it was. I was thinking about, and maybe it just kind of evolved over the years after backlights became a thing that were more common. The one where you could change and make your LEDs any color, like your LED notification light.
Oh.
Make it any color and custom blink patterns for any app.
Oh, yeah. No, that was my first application I downloaded on the Sidekick, but that is not the question. I paid $10 for an LED app on the Sidekick, maybe 20.
Good Lord.
That app store was such a racket.
I'm trying to remember the name, but it was a remote controller to use the IR port on my first iPad.
Nice.
Yeah, I was thinking if I go back to Windows Mobile days, it was either an infrared app or some sort of GPS thing. But it might have been because I really needed a universal remote, so I was trying to see what I could do with the IRDA port on that guy.
I'm trying to remember. I'm not positive, but I think it was the site I was working for at the time was Ars Technica in college, and I was using Windows Mobile, and I think it was an IRC client for our chat.
Oh, wow.
Oh, sweet. Did you guys use that for internal
I don't remember what it
communications?
was. Yeah, that was like our chat room. I don't remember what it was, though.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just pulled up Vigo just because I couldn't remember all of what it was about. It was like a one-stop shop for everything. So I now have apps that do one little thing for everything. Vigo was news and RSS, weather, sports, stocks and finance, local interest, shopping, social networks, entertainment, travel,
it was like
and gas prices.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was like one of those hubs. Those were popular for a second.
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about Ghostbusters 2.
I looked that up.
Ghostbusters 2.
My God.
Jaime has asked for me to forward him his listener mail question, which I'm doing right now. Jaime, it's on its way to you. This Vigo for BlackBerry app, there was a similar app that Sprint would ship on its dumb phones for a while, but it was like news and weather and stocks, and it was like an aggregated hub for current events. And what was it called? It had it was made by Bright Hand maybe because it had the hand logo.
Oh yeah.
It was like Sprint Now or something. Yeah, I don't know, but I used it all the time because, like, rather than go to like the WAP browser on my A900 and type in, CNN.com, I would just go to Sprint Now or whatever it was called, and it'd be like, oh yeah, here's your news and weather and all that stuff. Sweet, thanks. Jaime, did you get that piece of mail yet? That was a good question, by the way. I really am very pleased.
Got it. Okay. So this comes from Harwat Sethi, and I'm sorry, dude. Everybody butchers my name too. Hi all. Just wanted to say you guys are doing a great job. The last two shows have felt really well put together. I'm sure Jules has a big part in that. Shout out to him. And
Amen. Jules, you rock.
Is that also because of my connectivity issues?
Yeah, it's been great, Taylor.
The last two shows have been awful.
The fact that we haven't let Taylor talk as much has really smoothed out the show.
As an unapologetic Windows user, and I own a Surface 2 and a Lumia 920, and I love them both, I'm always curious as to what the world of the third-wheel mobile operating system is up to. Recently, I saw a hands-on video on WP Central on the Samsung ATIV SE, a device you guys have not given much attention to. Will there be any coverage of this device, or is it too similar to the ATIV products? It seems, though, Samsung's value adds, IR Blaster, AMOLED display, Samsung App Suite, would actually make this device compelling for those looking for Windows phones on Verizon. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this phone. Keep it up.
Yeah, this is. I just decided to answer this question because some other people had asked us about it in the comments and such, and I think we've addressed it on the show before. I'm not really sure, but it's a very simple explanation on this one. We reviewed the ATIV S back in the day, when we had to get an unlocked version of it. It was Samsung's first Windows Phone 8 device. It was actually the first Windows Phone 8 device announced. And we had to go way the hell out of our way to get an unlocked version of it. I don't remember. We might have gotten it from Samsung. I'm not sure. We spent a long time on the review, and I did as good a job as I could, and we kind of put a lot of man-hours into it. And then, like, literally no one, like, figuratively, no one watched the review.
Yeah.
Or read it or anything, and there was this critically low audience interest in the thing, and that kind of burned us on ATIV coverage for a while. Steven looks like he wants
I'm looking at. I pulled up the ATIV SE stories we had, and this is just the prototypical what's wrong with smartphone coverage. You have all these stories leading up to it, like it's going to be announced soon, pre-orders are coming, and then we completely drop the ball when the phone comes out. We don't even have an announcement, oh, it's finally available. Once it gets here and it's real and there's no mystery left, next phone, please.
Wasn't it? Yeah, but wasn't it like soft launch? I feel like it was very quietly debuted.
Yeah, there must not have been a big to-do about it because it completely flew.
There wasn't an event for that. They silently announced it. I remember that.
Yeah.
And what was the first Samsung Windows phone for Windows Phone 7? I'm trying to remember.
The Samsung Focus. I owned one. And
that was a lot. Really cool.
Yeah.
Is that the one with the speakers?
No,
that was the HTC one, I think, right?
Yeah, the HTC one had the pop-up speakers. No, another reason for this is, like, Harwant, you're making a good point about the value adds. I mean, the AMOLED display on Windows Phone is always great, but of course we've seen that on a lot of Windows phones at this point.
A lot of Nokia Lumias?
Yep, the IR Blaster, the Samsung beat him to the punch, but now, of course, it's on the HTC One M8. The Samsung Apps Suite is not terribly compelling, I don't think. It may be a little bit more fleshed out than HTC's, but certainly nothing compared to the Nokia collection, which I guess is all kind of irrelevant now, but really, this device was soft launch. They didn't make a big deal out of it, neither Samsung nor Verizon. We were not exactly incentivized to go out of our way to get it because there weren't a lot of people asking us to cover it. And, well, Samsung has not been terribly adept at sending us things these days. So, we didn't really want to go out of our way to cover it, and we didn't, and very few people have asked about it since. So I would still love to touch it. Yeah, go ahead, Jaime.
I'll tell you this much. I mean, how many ads do you see of the ATIV SE or the ATIV in its time? The problem, and if you remember, this is a problem that Samsung's been facing with Google. Google's disappointed with Samsung because they're not building any ads for the Gear Live. They're only focusing on their Tizen variants, and Samsung is really so built into their Galaxy lineup that they're not giving ads for anything that's Windows Phone. They're like, oh, it's like if they signed the contract at some point and they're like, oh, here's a Windows Phone, here's a Windows Phone. They're not really doing anything to make it any, they're not making any fanfare about it.
That's a good point. Now, I would love to see, now that you bring that up, and this is the first time I've thought about this, I'd love to see a Galaxy Alpha in a Windows Phone trim.
Ooh, yeah.
I think that would be really amazing. Because, I liked the ATIV S. Jules is helpfully running our video review in this other tab here. And the ATIV S, it wasn't anything to scream about in terms of the build quality, but it had this wonderful faux metallic backplate that I've said a couple times is the best fake metal I've ever seen. And it really did look good, and I rather liked it. But anyway, we've talked enough about this. We've talked more about the ATIV S. Oh, and I sent it to Taylor, I guess, because he has one on the air right now. I think that looks really good. It really did.
I had to wipe baby snot off of it.
What is going on upstairs?
That's awesome. Why don't we move on to the last piece of listener mail? Thank you for that piece of mail. And is Todd reading this one?
Yep, I'll read it if you want me to. I have it.
Yeah, this is great because this is perfect. I'm glad we have you on the show.
This is a good one. All right, I'll start here. It's from William Lee. Hi, guys. Great job on the new podcast format. I was skeptical about it at first, but now I'm really liking it. I was listening to an old episode of the Verge Mobile podcast and saw Michael's comment. This made me curious. What is the relationship between publications? I don't ever see anyone from tech sites cross-commenting. Also, can you discuss a bit about the difference between more independent and smaller groups like Pocketnow, TechnoBuffalo, and larger groups owned by larger media outlets like The Verge and Engadget? This is slightly long, but I think a lot of people might be interested. Keep up the great work. Super glad now Steven sounds good now and that Michael sounds more like an advertisement than ever. It's a beautiful day to be alive.
Is that a dig at Michael there?
I don't know.
Yeah, William's pissed off because he sends us email every week, and I only read it like once every 6 months. No, William, this is a great question. I was going to wait until we had a proper segment on, because sometimes we run a segment on this show called Inside Baseball, but we're not doing that this time. But Todd is on, and I was like, what a perfect opportunity to do this. I want to address something. I don't know what episode of the Verge Mobile show you're talking about that I commented on, and I would be very interested in seeing what I said.
I mean, aren't you an astrophysicist, Michael?
Aren't I an astroflutist? What?
Astrophysicist, according to Wikipedia.
Oh yes. I'm a professor of chemical physics or something like that. So I don't know what reference that is in particular. But there's so much in this thing. So let's just see if we can answer it. Obviously, on the level that Pocketnow and TechnoBuffalo exist on, we have very few, enemies. I think, I mean. We've got Todd on our show. I've guested on other shows. Taylor's guested on other ones. We've had Brad from Engadget on. He's had us. We've had Miriam. It's like, Todd, maybe you can flesh this out a little bit. We always say that there's a lot of space in this field. There's sort of room enough for everyone, so there's no real reason for us to sit here and kind of crap all over each other, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I've talked to PR people about this too, and other people in the industry, and they're always surprised, like, wait, you guys are friends with each other? Or, like, you guys talk offline? Or, like, we actually will go to press events, and we'll be sitting next to each other, live blogging, doing our hands-ons, as if we're competitors, and we are in a lot of ways. But then, frequently we'll go out afterwards and grab drinks or dinner or anything like that, and we see each other at a lot of events traveling around the world. I mean, we're going to be in Germany together in September, for example, so it's really friendship, and it's friendly competition, I'd say. And across all sites, I mean, we have friends, all of us, at The Verge and Engadget and sites all around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that Todd guy.
That Todd guy. Man, that Robo-Todd. Glad I don't see him very often.
No, when I was at Phone Dog, Michael and I were at, it was the Droid DNA event. And we both got a hands-on from the same guy at the same time. We just got on either side of the guy. We
phrasing.
So yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah. No. Did you even hear what I said? No.
No. No. Yeah. No, we did, Taylor. No, we heard what you said. You're not having a connection difficulty. We just had a nice LOL.
Oh well.
At your expense.
Yeah, we double teamed the guy, and everybody in my comments was like, "That's Michael Fisher," and everybody in his were, that's Taylor. So
yeah,
it actually works out. It actually works out, I feel like, in our favor, all of us as friends, because we go to CES or we go to Mobile World Congress, and we're in another country and just surrounded by global press, and to see a familiar face, at the hands-on table, and just to have somebody be like, "Oh yeah, like." You can hand off the devices to somebody and it makes it a lot easier, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of that courtesy that we kind of try to extend and stuff. Like Taylor was still with Phone Dog and at a CES, and we talked about this a while, but he's having a rough time of it because he didn't have as many people there as we did, and we were like, yeah, man,
I didn't have as many people there. It was me.
I've done CES solo, man.
2 years in a row.
I remember Taylor was just dying with the Wi-Fi connection. I'm like, oh, I've got an extra dongle there in the bag, and the guy just looks at me. He's like, you what?
Yeah,
Brandon gave me an iPad to tether off of and upload some videos, and that failed. And then Jaime's like, just put all of it on a flash drive and I'll upload it.
Yeah, and I've got some compatriots here in town at other outlets who sometimes they need a referral to an OEM. They need to make a PR contact, and I'll just do an introduction, or they want to borrow a device that I'm done with. It's like, yeah, absolutely. To get a little deeper on what Todd was talking about, I feel like when you go into this field, the time sacrifices are so incredible and so complete. Like, so many people give up nights and weekends basically to do this job, or at least spend a lot of 12-hour days doing it, that it can put a real burden on, it can put a real strain on your actual friendships, like in real life. Mm-hmm. So it's so important to have acquaintanceships which grow into friendships at these events, which you can't, your wife or your girlfriend can't always travel with you to these things. You can't, like, bring your best friend and be like, hey, you want to come to this LG thing? Because it's like, no, it's press only. So you need to have those people in order to, compensate for all the rest of the time that you're, I don't know, spending in like a 4x6 foam box.
I think what you're trying to say is, I have no other option but to make friends with people like Michael Fisher.
Yeah. There you go. Which is why, if you see me smiling at a press event, it's because, like, I know that somebody's got to be friends with me. Come on.
Some lonely jerk has got
to show up.
And your products.
Oh yeah, those are state secrets. You want to watch out for those. What else? I feel like this was like a 4-part question. Was there any other part to William's?
I think there was something about here. What about? Let me see. What's the difference between more independent and smaller groups like Pocketnow and TechnoBuffalo, and larger groups owned by larger media outlets like Version and Gadget?
Varieties of coffee in the break room.
Yeah, right.
Varieties of coffee and like thousands of dollars in camera equipment.
Yeah.
It's so nice. It's fun to be in line, like, with next to the Verge or a similarly equipped site, because they've got 16 bags of camera equipment and like 8 dudes with lighting masts and boom mics and all this kind of stuff. And I'm here with like my $350 Sony camera with a kit lens, and I'm like, how you guys doing? What's happening?
That reminds me of one of the events I went to. I can't remember what it was. It was 2 events in one day, and that would have put it Lumia 920, I believe, with
and the Motorola event.
Yes, the Motorola event. They were scheduled like 4 blocks from each other, same day, about 2 hours apart. Yeah. And I went to New York to cover both by myself, and I'm seeing like this group. There was Engadget. They had like 6 people at this event, and then The Verge had like 10 people at this event, and I'm here by myself, and I'm scrambling to get one of these videos done and uploaded, and they're like casually walking to a cab. I'm running down the sidewalk with my MacBook Air, typing out a description with one hand, hailing a cab at a street corner, like freaking out, like, what am I gonna do? Like, yeah. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
There's no backup 90% of the time.
And that dovetails with what Todd was saying about the friendly competition bit. It brings me a great deal of pride to be stuck covering an event, a solo, and it's like, oh god, this was stressful and stuff. But to try my best to put out a product of at least as much quality as some of the bigger guys can put out with my equipment and personnel limitations. I think that's a really fun challenge. It's exhausting, but it's a lot of fun. And I think that would be, I would miss that to a degree if I were on a team, a large team.
I was at that question at a point because, like, for example, if you see competing shows to what we do, like, for example, if you want to see what The Verge needs to build their podcast, my God, it's the producer. I think it's the producer, the editor, then it's like 3 hosts plus their studio and all that thing. Or like, for example, if you...
I would like that. I would like to have that.
Oh, we would all. In our particular case in Pocketnow, it's even more challenging because we're not in the same office. We're not even in the same country, some of us.
Right.
So somebody was asking me, somebody that's actually in the business but in a TV channel. He's like, my God, dude. He's like, what you do? He's like, I have 1 camera guy, 1 editor. It's me that I'm the host, and then there's an editor. So it's 4 people to do once a week what you do every day. And I'm like, yeah.
Recognize, yo.
Yeah, my friend has a production company, and he's like, I have an audio guy, a video guy, I have a writer, and then I'm a director, and we have a producer. Just for, a 20-minute show, a television show that you're going to see on public television. And he's like, you do that once, twice, 3 times a day, and I don't know how you do it. I was like, I don't either. Like, I honestly don't. I wake up in the morning, I write my script, I'm conscious through that, and then I'm uploading, I'm like, What just happened the last 12 hours?
Me too. Me too. People will ask me like 4 months later, "Is like, did you review this device?" I'm like, I don't know.
What does YouTube say?
Seriously.
Yeah.
And we're talking about people that actually studied for this. I mean, in my case, I remember the first time I edited a video, it took me 2 days. Shit, I could do it. I could do a full Pocketnow daily in under 4 hours, but it used to take me 12 hours just to edit because I had no clue what Final Cut was. I had no clue what it was. I'm not a video editor. We learned that, just trying.
It taught me everything I know.
We pour our hearts and souls into these videos and how we edit them, and then wizards like Jules come along and he's like, "Oh, but look at this,"
and suddenly, like, this video that would have been so static and terribly dry about Antutu or something like that, regardless of Joe's amazing technical expertise and his amazing voice, how do you describe a benchmarking application in anything but sexy terms? And you have like someone like Jules comes along, it's like, boom! Oh my God, this is amazing looking. So anyway, I think the moral of all this is that if we are sometimes crabby in the comments, this is why. Yeah, I'm very tired.
Man, I don't know what I've done to our viewers, but geez, I've been getting a lot of hate in the comments lately. Like a lot.
I'll tell you what.
Like people are like, "Off yourself."
Let's go deal with it.
Try building a daily recap, dude. You have no idea what you'll read there.
It's mainly because my voice.
Thank you for the opportunity for us to do a little navel gazing here. Really do appreciate it.
Pocketnow Weekly.
It was indeed. We should have made an inside baseball segment about it. And as a matter of fact, we did. But we're over 2 hours. It's time for us to go. Todd, thanks for coming by, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Sorry I had connection issues earlier.
That's okay. Hey, you want? Let's do this again, please.
Pull in a Taylor.
We'll see you at IFA.
Yep, I'll see you guys in Germany.
Terrific, man. All right.
I'll get a brew.
Todd, I'm not going to make you sit around for my very long outro. We'll see you at IFA.
All right, guys. Thank you. See you around.
See you, buddy.
Yeah.
Folks, as we prepare...
Enthusiasm dialed to 11.
Every time I'm on the show, I can't get over how low key his goodbyes are. Like you sound like someone just insulted every part of your life, and you're just like, see ya. All right, listen, as we prepare to pull the ejection handle, everybody, a note on music. Our transition track is called Radiation. It's a ringtone you might recognize from some Android smartphones, but it's also a full-length song by Ali Spagnola, an artist who once stopped by the Pocketnow Weekly for an interview and one with millions of fans around the world. You should be one, because she's really cool. Visit her YouTube channel, youtube.com/AliSpags, and her website at alispagnola.com, both of them linked in the description below. Till next time, that's going to do it for this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly, which was produced by Jules Wong, a.k.a. Green.0 on Twitter. You can find Pocketnow on Twitter as well and send us listener mail to podcast@pocketnow.com. Also be sure to find the hosts on Twitter. Taylor gets into fights with retired Marines, apparently, at Casper Tech, CBSPERTEK. Stephen joined Twitter over a year ago and is almost up to 20 tweets at Stephen Shank. And I tell you all about steamboats, Star Trek, and Samuel Adams at Captain Two Phones.
Only S things.
You can also follow Pocketnow on Instagram, Facebook, and Google+. And listen to me. If you enjoy this podcast, it would be a tremendous help if you would leave us a review. It helps us grow our audience. Leave us a review wherever podcasts are heard. Thank you. And as always, we thank you so much for listening. We thank our sponsor at swappa.com/pocketnow and the Boneyard. And we'll be back with more Mobile Tech Talk next week.
Bye.
The Boneyard.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
The